can give you a list of 100 Jews that destroyed the Jewish nation. One of them is Santa Claus. Santa Claus in my blacklist is the biggest danger to the Jewish world today. The biggest. The damage that he makes with his stupid books, the retard books that he just printed now. God needs us, full of heresy.
Which means that the first human being, the original human being, was both male and female. Whatever that means. First of all, it tells us that being a male or being a female is wrong. That's not the way we're supposed to be. We are supposed to be male and female.
Important question. At what age does a person become responsible and culpable for violating the laws of the Torah? Can a 6-year-old child be punished for violating the Sabbath? Can a 10-year-old child be punished for eating the cheeseburger? Punished for eating the cheeseburger? Punished for eating the cheeseburger?
Hello.
Geschmack.
What a geschmacka intro.
No, for my Catholic audience and Christian audience in general on my channel, I did not just call him a schmuck. It's a different word.
That's the only Yiddish people know. Yes,
Yeah.
geschmack means like it's just so good, so tasty, so
Like
delicious.
chillin' on Thursday night.
That would be an example of a geschmacka thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to see you again. Thank you for
Punished
doing
for
it.
eating a cheeseburger, in fact. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the crazy one. Cheeseburgers are forbidden by the Torah.
It's always like the worst example, you know what I mean? If you're an American Jew. What? Do you think you're going to eat a cheeseburger? Cheese. On Shabbos.
On Shabbos. Yeah.
On Shabbos.
Well, that's something I've been noticing. I have been learning more than ever before. By learning, when that's referred to in rabbinic circles, it means learning Talmud and rabbinic books. And it just strikes me that every single thing they say is debatable. It's entirely debatable. I mean, quite literally, they're debating about it. That's first of all. Second of all, it's just a matter of interpretation. And I think it's abundantly clear that their interpretations are subjective, disputable, and usually wrong and quite detached from reality and scripture. So that's just, I wish like there was a way to express this in a less, I guess, aggressive way. Like, let's just have a disagreement.
There is not.
Right? But like, let's just have a disagreement about interpretation. How about that? You know, like you present your interpretation to me and then we will have an argument. But I don't know if they even want to have a genuine argument. They usually want to just go jump to the authority question. But we're looking forward to having some productive conversations tonight.
Yeah, for anyone watching on my channel, I am streaming on my channel right now. Israel is managing the stream, so this is his stream, and I'm a guest, but streaming it on my channel. So he's going to be collecting all the super chats. We'll get to them at some point if there's super chats coming in, but we're also going to post the link to the call-in just a minute or two.
People making sure that you get your Thursday night cholent.
There's so many jokes now as a Catholic that I can make about that are still really funny. Like, are you allowed to partake of the Eucharist if you didn't have cholent Thursday night?
It's all connected.
As a Jewish Catholic, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So these are the real questions, you know? Like, these are the questions.
What have been some of your realizations recently with this conversation?
With like the Rabbinic Judaism and validity?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot because I did that video on the Anshe Knesset HaGedola and like the validity of the chain. What do they call it in Islam? An isnad chain or something.
I don't even know.
And people have told me that, oh, Ash, you've jumped from the frying pan into the fire being a Catholic because you also rely on tradition. It's like there's a difference to say this is the traditions that we know have been developed in the church under the authority of the church versus claiming that that tradition always existed, even though there's no record of it, right? That's a very key distinction. Obviously, there was changes, right, when the church came to be because the incarnation happened and then things changed in the new covenant. We're
Right.
not claiming that the Jewish people at Sinai were really Catholic. You know what I mean?
You're
Which is
admitting
essentially
that,
what the rabbis are claiming.
yeah, you're admitting that there is a shift that took place, but that you
Right.
believe
A promised shift that was fulfilled. If you want to buy it, buy it. If you don't want to buy it, don't buy it. But it's not a verifiably false claim
Mhm.
that you can go, hey, we have internal evidence that shows that you're wrong and lying. We have historical evidence, and then we have also a lack of anything corroborating on top of that.
Yeah, I just saw this Orthodox Rabbi Breitowitz today. I don't know if you've seen him, but
He's a nice guy.
yeah, he said that the oral tradition, there's some interpretations that claim that it's prophetic. And now, even though that the prophecy ended at the time of the Second Temple, or before the Second Temple, the remnants of the prophecy was left in the land of Israel. So particularly, and he's quoting Rav Kook, the Talmud Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, is working with prophecy as well as the Mishnah. So like the rabbis in Israel were more prophetic than the rabbis in Babylon, and they were divinely inspired. So he's kind of admitting that there was a shift, but that shift was divinely inspired. I thought that was interesting.
So what's interesting, there's a lot of claims like that in Judaism that then just fall apart, right? So the Talmud recounts that 40 years before the destruction of the temple, a bunch of stuff for the Yom Kippur sacrificial system stopped working. It's like, that's inconvenient timing, right? Right? So you want to buy that as evidence? Fine. You don't want to? Fine. But it's very convenient timing. But rather than just say, we don't think that has anything to do with Jesus, right? Rather than say that, it's, oh no, these are things that slowly stopped anyways from the time of Shimon HaTzadik, who, by the way, they place in the wrong century in their reckoning of time. So they get a lot of things. They admit to warping things also. So they claim that when they translated the Septuagint, right, that they intentionally made mistakes so that the Gentiles wouldn't be confused. Well, where are those mistakes in the Septuagint in the Greek scriptures? Where are they? Because they're not there.
Right.
The claimed mistakes just aren't there. So are you claiming that the Septuagint is the valid Greek translation without the mistakes? Or are you lying and there never was any mistakes put in? Right?
Mm-hmm.
They just self-incriminate. They didn't realize. People are like, well, why would they do that? It's like, well, rabbis in the 2nd century, 3rd century, 4th century were not thinking that people in the year 2026 with archaeological evidence, manuscript evidence, textual criticism would be able to look back and go, oh, you're full of crap.
Right.
They just weren't counting on it. They didn't know that that would exist.
Yeah, and something you've pointed out within rabbinic literature as well, they confirm a lot of Christian ideas, such as saying that when the Messiah comes, some of the Torah will be abolished, right? They actually have that
Correct.
idea in rabbinic Judaism, which is pretty
Abrogated.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are certainly a lot of contradictory statements, and it does come down to trust. Like, you trust the Catholic tradition, you can make your arguments for that. When it comes to the rabbinic tradition, it's like, you're going to trust a tradition that has to make false claims in order to maintain itself. That to me is strange. Like, why do they need to claim that this is a unbroken chain from Moses at Sinai when they can just offer their interpretation? It's almost like they know people wouldn't buy it if it was just a suggestion. It has to be, this is
It's
the
a consolidation of power.
Yeah. And they actually consolidated power for a certain time. What's funny is that while they argue for consensus, it seems the consensus of the Jews is that they don't want to follow the rabbis because most Jews are not Orthodox. So if this was about consensus,
No kidding.
I think the majority has spoken. But I think from the Torah perspective, it's not about consensus. It's, quoting Exodus 23:2, it's about the truth. Do not follow the majority for evil to pervert the law, but follow God and his commandments. Do not add or subtract. So it's pretty straightforward when you look at it that way.
Right. Let's put the link in the chat for anyone. This conversation, so for anyone on my channel who's watching, this is for people who follow Rabbinic Judaism, whether you're conservative, modern Orthodox light, traditional, like Masorti, whatever it is, or Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox, to come on and explain to us why we should be Orthodox Jews instead of a Karaite and a Catholic.
Come on up. Come on up. That is what we're here to do. We're here to discuss. We're here to try to get to a clearer understanding. I think again, we don't even need to be dogmatic. Like ultimately, as you said, you can't force anyone to buy your definitions. It's really just about trying to stick to our own guns and present our convictions as clear as possible. And maybe we'll change some minds.
Yeah, Anthony in the chat, you missed an epic intro. You missed an epic intro. You can go back and watch it and then play at 2x speed to catch up.
You got to go back.
You gotta go back.
That was a very, very good intro.
Now, the question I have while we're waiting is, why do you put rabbi under your name? Because it doesn't just mean teacher, like it's a specific category of teacher, right?
Right. Yeah, just using the basic Jewish term for a teacher of the Torah. I don't actually have rabbinic certification or anything of the sort. So I don't claim to be like a rabbinic rabbi. It's more like if, I don't know, someone decided the medical system was really corrupt and then decided to practice medicine independently and called himself a doctor just to piss off other doctors. I don't know, something like that.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's really just a recognizable term as well. So aside for like the shock element of pissing people off.
Like when a professor of gender studies goes by doctor. No.
Right. Exactly. No. Yeah. Again,
Not
I mean,
that I'm comparing you to a professor of gender studies.
yeah, people can choose to view it as serious or unserious. I think that I just use the term because it's recognizable. Although I'm not ordained by any institution, I do teach Torah, and so that traditionally has been a rabbi. But yeah, the term, I have no attachment to that term, and the term is not a biblical term either. So we actually have someone here. Blessed is Hashem. So let's see. We can bring
There's like
on
a little toggle for audio only.
Yeah, hide camera, keep audio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that, and let's bring on Blessed
Hello?
is Hashem. How are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm doing very well. I had a question for both of you. What is the requirement to be executed for violating the Sabbath?
Mm-hmm.
What is the requirement to be executed for violating the Sabbath?
Yes, correct.
To desecrate the Sabbath and work on it?
Yeah, I'm saying to be executed. Like, we know you need witnesses. That's in the text, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2 or 3 witnesses.
Mhm.
Yeah. 2 or 3 witnesses.
So my question is, according to the strict
This is,
view of the
by the way, I
text,
can tell by the voice, this is the guy that has threatened me on streams. I usually don't let him up, but let's let him go.
Okay. Regardless, you can tell from the text there is no standard of age. So if a 6-month-old baby violated the Sabbath, would you kill them?
Is a 6-month-old baby?
Do you think,
capable of
hold
work?
on, do you think that we are retarded enough to think that the judicial system among the leaders of Israel didn't allow provision for the judges to make these kind of distinctions?
I'm just asking what basis they made the distinction on. Sure, they did. Of course they did.
Yeah.
The judge who was appointed at the place that God set would make those distinctions, correct?
Based off what?
That's the
Based off
nature.
their judicial judgments.
Yeah, that's the nature
of what judges do.
of the
Based off
judicial
their
system.
judging? Okay, so based off their judging, they would make the judgment. You're going to have to be a little bit more clear.
Like today, like if somebody is brought before a court, right, and it
Mhm.
says that somebody who is incompetent, right, might not be able to stand trial, well, somebody's going to decide whether that person is incompetent or not, and it's not going to be clear to everyone, and not everyone's going to agree on it, but the judge can make that final decision, correct?
Yeah, but where does it say that in the Torah? Like, you would agree God is the objective morality, God is the objective law, whatever God says is good. So I think we can agree that according to
So
both
are
of
you
our
arguing that if
positions-
something is not spelled out explicitly in the Torah, it doesn't work?
I would say that if God doesn't say that something is bad, then it isn't bad, because God is objective morality.
Really?
So
Yeah, but that's regardless.
Would you say that,
that's kind of
so you disagree with Rabbeinu Gershom and you would marry your first cousin?
That's a complete red herring. That has nothing to do with what I'm saying.
Is that a red
You are
herring?
jumping
It doesn't
off.
say that
You are jumping
doesn't say
off
that
of the
that's wrong
fact
in-
that your view allows you
No,
to kill
you just
babies
said
for
that
violating the
you-
Sabbath.
You just said that if it's not explicitly listed in the Torah as evil, it's fine.
Yeah. It's
So marrying your first cousin is
lawful.
totally cool. You think that's a great thing to do.
Abraham married his sister. Regardless, you're jumping off of the topic because you know what it naturally leads to. Where do these judges base
Did you just say that
their
Abraham married his sister?
his
What?
half? Yes, he was. Yeah, he was his half sister. Anyways, according
That's
to
in the Torah.
yeah,
The
Yeah.
rabbis claim it was his niece.
Yeah, so are you arguing that that's totally fine today?
But also that was
Yeah.
before the Torah was given.
why are you jumping off of this? It's
Because
like really
Abraham didn't
weird.
keep
You
the
keep on
Torah,
jumping
right?
off of this.
Even though he only kept the Talmud. He knew the Zohar.
Okay, you are jumping off of what you know is problematic. According to your view, there is no basis for a judge to say that a 6-month-old is mentally incompetent because the text doesn't say you don't execute people who are mentally incompetent. Your book allows the execution
You
of
didn't understand
babies
my
and
argument.
autistic people.
I compared
for
it to a
violating the
modern
Sabbath.
court.
Okay, so with the modern court bases it off of the standards that we have set in place as humans. What does the judge base it off of? The Torah, right?
Yeah, but the Torah gives judges the ability to adjudicate law. Judges and law
Okay.
enforcement you shall place in all of your cities, right? So if there are judges, that means they serve a purpose to adjudicate law, to judge every case. They have to investigate everything. They have to make sure they understand it. They have to make sure they act accordingly and judge accordingly. What you pointed out, first of all, it's completely ridiculous to claim that a 6-month-old is even capable of work. The whole idea of work requires consciousness and the ability to do something. A 6-month-old can't even do anything. So you make no sense whatsoever.
You can light a
But
fire.
a 6-month-old?
If a 6-month-old picked up a stick with a fire on it, they could light a fire. In a hypothetical,
Yeah, they'd
that's
probably
totally
light their
possible.
head on fire. But
That's
again,
irrelevant. They're still lighting a fire. So the judges, if they use their judicial ability, which they base off the Torah, what the Torah says,
Okay.
what God says, they
So
would
the
be able
problem
to
is-
execute a 6-year-old.
So the
A
problem in
6-month-old.
communication here is that you believe that if the Torah doesn't prescribe something exactly with all details, we are too retarded to make sense of it ourselves, and therefore there has to be an exact detail given in a separate oral law.
No, I
The
think
fact
that
is, God did not think we were as retarded as
straw
you
man.
think we are, and so he gave us guidelines and commands and appointed judges to do that.
okay, this is a straw man of what I'm saying, but I'll take it to its natural, absurd end. So if the judge said, I think that a
He didn't
6-month-old should
understand that
be
last time. Let's see if he gets it this
yeah,
time.
I think if the judge says, I think that the 6-month-old should be executed because they violated the Sabbath. By the way, the Torah is the objective morality. God is objective morality. There's nothing objectively wrong unless you have God, unless you have the Torah Shabbat Peh, about doing that. And you can say it's intuitive to me, but I don't care. Maybe it's not intuitive to the judge. If the judge decides to execute the person,
So you're saying that God is the objective law.
yes,
God gave us
is
an
objective
unclear
morality.
written law, leaving it up to us to mess up and accidentally execute 6-month-olds for violating the Sabbath.
No,
But we
you're
need the
saying that
rabbis
because
to
I have the Torah
determine.
Shabbat Peh. It's not the rabbis. It's from God to Moses from
It's not
Sinai.
God.
Your God, yes, I agree. You just admitted your God does that. Correct.
No, I admitted that there's given guidelines and judicial authority and the common sense and leadership of the judges.
Okay. Common sense is subjective to the person, right?
not entirely. I mean, this
Not
is
entirely.
like you
What-
want
That's
you
why it's
want to
called common
again
sense.
like you want to put yourself in a state of complete subjectivity where you don't even know the difference
God.
between
Yes.
male and female, and then you will call on your rabbis to make decisions for you. Okay, God is giving us as human beings the ability for self-governance. That's exactly what the Torah is. God is saying you can govern yourselves if you follow these principles. If you're just and you don't take bribes and you act righteously and morally, then you'll be able to do things properly. So these conversations that you're bringing up are exact conversations that
I
judges.
mean, he's making a great case for Christianity. He doesn't realize, but still, it doesn't matter.
God forbid.
but just don't punish anyone.
What?
How
No,
so?
he's just making a
Anyways.
good case for how the morality comes to its fulfillment in the new covenant. But whatever.
Yeah, there is. Okay, you can throw out whatever action, idolatry nonsense you want to.
No, you made a great case for it. So Just
You can keep
pointing
on
it out
running. If a judge says, if the judge uses
Running.
his brain and
we
his
brought
common
you on the
sense-
stream. What do you
wait
mean
a second,
running?
Don't interrupt.
No, hold
me.
on a second.
If
Hold
the
on a second.
judge
Hold on a second.
says, if the
Don't
judge says,
interrupt
I
you on
think
my
it's
stream.
moral. If the
Okay,
judge
hold on a
says, I
second.
think it's
Hold on a
moral,
second. Hold on a second.
okay, so you can run.
Hold on a second. How is it running to bring you up on our own stream in front of our audience and talk to you about this topic? How is that running?
Because you're interrupting me and throwing red herrings, like what a man
It's
and a
not red
woman is.
herrings.
That's
I'm
not what
pointing
we're
out the
talking
flaws in
about.
your argument. Anything that you don't like is a red herring, apparently.
I feel
That's
like
not a
all
flaw in
these.
my
I feel like all
argument.
these.
Okay, let's take it
You're
to a
on
not red herring.
defense,
Let's
I'm
take
on
it to a not
offense,
red
all
herring.
right?
Let's take it to a further
You're
argument,
running.
okay? Let's take it to another completely different thing here on the oral Torah here. Let's see if I'm running, okay? Let's see who's running here.
Okay, what
Are
does this
the-
have to do
are
with
the
my argument? You're
Gezeros-
going to bring up
Are
something
the
else.
Gezeros of Rabbeinu Gershom from Sinai?
They're Gezeros, so assumably not.
Okay, so what gave Rabbeinu Gershom the right unilaterally without a Beis Din to impose these laws?
He is the leader of the generation. But I don't see
Yeah,
what the
that
relevance
doesn't- that
is.
doesn't allow for that,
Why
though. He
are
doesn't
you
have a court.
running? Why are you
I just
running
asked him, what do
away?
you mean running? You don't want to answer basic questions about how the oral law
Because
functions.
listen, I'm on.
Get rid of
Okay,
him.
we're not talking. We're talking about your position. I'm on offense.
I'm
you're on
asking you
defense.
questions about the oral law. You don't want to answer.
You're trying to go on offense when I'm asking you the questions that
Yeah,
you're
I'm
running
going on
away
offense.
from.
Your religion's
So
stupid,
can
and
you
I'm proving
please
it.
answer my question?
That's what this is
The
for.
judge decides that the
That's what this is for.
the
Your
6-month-old
religion,
baby is
your
culpable.
religion is dumb. Your religion is dumb, and I'm going on offense because your religion is dumb. And
Okay, but you're running away. You're running away from my point, and everybody in the chat can see it. You cannot justify.
What gave a single rabbi in the 10th century the right to impose laws on the Jewish people without a Beis Din?
Okay. If you're not going to engage with me, then
No,
you're just
you're
going to
not
be
engaging.
ridiculous. No, because
You're
you're
not
running
engaging.
away
I
from the
answered your
original topic.
question.
I asked you what you
I
didn't.
answered your question.
I asked
You didn't like the answer.
I asked you if a judge
didn't like the
who
answer.
uses his common sense can execute a 6-month-old baby, and you're not answering. You're not answering because you know what the answer is, and you're scared. So I'm going to leave everybody with this. You didn't.
It would be
I'm going to
common
leave
sense
everybody
that a
with
judge
this.
would not execute a baby, correct?
Okay. It's no. The Torah is objective morality. We know it from the Torah. We know it from God. This is the standard that God has set. I think everybody. I've demonstrated that you're running away from the question. Both of you. I hope
just
you
answered
both
your question twice,
repent
but you
of your
won't answer
idolatry,
mine.
and I hope
So
that you stop burden shifting.
So you won't answer the question that I just asked you. I answered yours, but you won't answer mine. I ran, apparently.
I guess he's gone. Yeah, I guess he's gone. Well, we have a few more guests, so we'll bring them up. Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's just really simple logic here, and this is the issue over and over again, which is, as you were pointing out, you can point out flaws in the oral Torah and the fact that it doesn't address everything and it doesn't have a clear answer for everything. And even if it did have a clear answer, it doesn't mean that that answer is correct. It doesn't mean that answer is from God. The assumption here is that God gave the Torah to complete imbeciles who would kill their kids, even though obviously the Torah is meant for adults who can think. So, there's just a really...
He just argued that a reasonable person without the oral Torah would execute a baby for violating the Sabbath.
Yeah, that's what he's arguing. That's what he's arguing. I mean, he's basically admitting that he's below a caveman. Even a caveman wouldn't do that. So I don't know what kind of creature he is, but he's reduced himself to a subhuman creature in order to justify rabbinic authority. I mean, that...
Can you pull up the super chat from mine?
Absolutely. Is it the donation?
Yeah, the super chat one.
Super chat for this guy right here.
God bless you, Ash. I will be debating Steve Christie on the 12th. I don't know who Steve Christie is. I'll look it up. One sec. What are you debating him on?
Let's see. Well, if I agree with you, then
Steve Christie is a Canadian football player. That can't be right.
Okay.
A former Catholic who's now a Protestant. Okay, good luck with that. I hope you win.
Okay. I don't really have a dog in the fight, but I wish everyone gets closer to the truth. Let's see.
The link's bad for streaming. What?
We have a new guy here, Zalman.
Yeah. Zalman.
Yeah,
Reb Zalman, how are you?
Yeah. I have a question for you guys. Where do you derive what day Yom Kippur should be?
Leviticus chapter 23.
It doesn't say a day though.
10th day of the 7th month.
Yeah, what is that?
What is the 7th month, or what is the 10th day?
It's the 10th day of the 7th month.
Yeah, what's the 7th month?
Well, it depends how
7th
you
of the months.
Yeah, the 7th month of the
After the
12
6th,
months.
before the 8th.
Yeah, no, but when is that? When would that? When do you start
Whenever it
from?
came out on the
You don't know
calendar.
when to start from.
Yeah.
I know what the argument is. If you don't know what the months is without the rabbi, so that's actually not how people determine these things in the time that the Torah was given. It was on a lunar cycle, so it didn't even matter.
What?
I'm just saying it didn't even matter. So what I would say is here's the natural conclusion of this argument. Let's even leave out the fact that it was a lunar calendar, then that a lunar cycle, that people would actually look and observe the moon, and then they would count, okay, this is this month, then to see the moon again, they'd go, this is the next month, and on the 7th one of that cycle, repeatedly throughout the people, everyone doing it together, because that's how people kept time back then, on the 7th time, the 10th day of that one would be Yom Kippur. Now, even if we supposed that that wasn't possible somehow and we needed a tradition to do that, it still wouldn't imply Rabbinic Judaism, right? People today speak Mandarin, right? Because that's the language that those people spoke, and they still speak it today since the inception of that language, because it's an oral tradition of speaking, right? Same thing with anything. It doesn't imply rabbinic authority. I just wanted to take that to its conclusion before we even get there.
I'm asking you, how do you know when to start?
Right. It's just
from the time it was given at Sinai.
So you have a tradition? Can you show me that tradition?
It's all of humanity keeping time at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, no, how do you know that goes back to Mount Sinai?
Okay. There are established ways to calculate the months. There's not one particular way.
Again, by the way, another great argument for Christianity.
There's not one way to calculate months. The Torah doesn't specify you need to calculate months in a certain way. There are multiple ways throughout time that people calculated months. Mm-hmm. Somehow, remarkably, every calendar ends up with 12 months in a year, right? That has to do with the seasons. It has to do with the luminaries. Most lunar calendars adjust with the sun in order to keep in alignment with the seasons. So that's exactly what we're looking at. We're looking at
but when do you start? So when would the 7th
so depending on how you calculate the months, when you get to the 7th month, on the 9th of the month in the evening, you observe Yom Kippur. One second. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I just read actually because within reason,
so I can make a calendar right now and just make random months.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as it works. Yeah.
So random months.
Dude, like this is absurd. The Torah doesn't specify a particular calendar. There are different ways to calculate time. They are all give or take within the same time frame, but yes, there is no particular day. In fact, based off of the calculations of the rabbis, I just read this in the Mishnah Rosh Hashanah, they would wait for witnesses to come to testify at the temple, right? But if witnesses didn't come, or if they didn't see the moon because it was too cloudy, they would proclaim the new month anyway, because they already knew what it was, because they're using basic calculation, excuse me, let me finish my sentence, because they're using basic calculation of months. All right.
People had reckoning of calendars before the Torah was given, buddy.
Okay, so but I'm saying, when do you start from? He said it could be any calendar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I happen to use the rabbinic calendar.
So one guy could be having Yom Kippur in Nisan, and the other guy in Shvat.
No, because a consensus understanding of the
every calendar must start in Aviv, in spring. Okay, so every calendar must start in the spring, and yes, the 7th month will be roughly around the same time. Now, when Israel is a united people in the land, I agree we should have a united calendar.
By the way, before we go any further, to the caller, can I ask you something just on a personal level here with this question? Okay, can I ask you why in the last 2,000 years, okay? Longer, because if you're considering the debates between the Sadducees and the Pharisees, right? Why do you think in 2,000 years not one scholar brought this up as a legitimization of the oral law until you came up with it just now?
Yeah, that's irrelevant, and that's also not true.
No, all the scholars debating Christians, Karaites, all these different groups, Muslims.
It's irrelevant.
Why would they not have come up with this argument until
that's irrelevant. You're not responding to my point.
It's because it's a dumb argument. Everyone has calendars.
We responded very well to your point. You just have a foregone.
Hold on a second. The disconnect here is you think.
Yeah, when is spring?
You think
when is spring?
That if it doesn't
when
fall
is
out,
spring?
Yeah, when does spring objectively start?
What is the sun and what is the moon? What is the sky?
The problem is you're presupposing that God intended that if Yom Kippur was done according to a calculation of the cycles according to people, and didn't fall on the exact, which by the way, we know that there's discrepancies, by the way, in calendars And Yom Kippur has not fallen out on the right day, probably for the last 2,000 years. Because I agree with you, at some point there was probably a calendar shift and an intentional shift and discrepancies. So it's actually, you're right to an extent, because whenever they did update a calendar, which they did multiple times in Jewish history, they definitely changed the day Yom Kippur would have fallen out on relative to the day the year before. So Yom Kippur is actually not practiced every day on the right day compared to Sinai. I'll grant you that. Which means you just go based on the calendar, and God is not retarded and thinks that, like, if you did it on the day according to the reckoning of the entire people according to a calendar, then suddenly it doesn't work. God's bound by this.
If you don't keep Yom Kippur, then you're kaddish.
Yeah,
so, right. But you're presupposing that it has to be on the exact same 300. I'm Karis like a million times over for a bunch of things, according to you.
You're already, I'm saying according to his position, he's kaddish. You're whatever. You're you're irrelevant.
All right, so
I'm irrelevant.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait, I thought every Jew has a portion in the world to come, and you're supposed to save me and bring me back to Judaism.
No, not everyone. No, you don't.
You're not supposed to try to convince me to come back to Judaism.
Yeah. The Mishnah and Sanhedrin says that there's certain people that don't. You both.
Who are those people?
One of you is an apikaitis. One of you is a min. You both don't have a chelik in Adam.
Right. What about people that betray their friends?
What do you mean? Depends what you mean.
That's a category given. Those who rat out their friends to the authorities.
Moisrim don't either.
Okay.
I guess we're Moisrim too.
I guess there's a lot of Jews that don't have a portion in the world to come.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah. So again, before you can walk away with your fake victory, let's discuss this, because the Torah does not provide any particular way to calculate months. If you calculate months using a valid calculation, beginning in the springtime, as Passover is the first month, at the bloom of the new season,
when does it start?
It's a season. It's a seasonal thing.
But when does it start?
Dude, you're so ignorant. You don't understand that every civilization for all of human history has kept track of the spring equinox. You think only your rabbis know things. All right. Let me explain something to you. Spring is a season. All right. It may not start.
When does it objectively start?
It doesn't have an objective first day.
It starts the same time for all civilizations that have ever calculated it.
Not true. You're gonna have to justify that.
No, it's something you can look at the sun and stars and moon and calculate.
Yeah,
wait, so you have seasons. You have the day when it starts?
There's a time every year when these things happen in the solar system. Are you like?
And I already told you that it's not going to be to the day. All right.
Okay.
So
then this guy thinks that. Do you know that the rabbis? Do you know that the rabbis of the Mishnah admitted that they learned this stuff from the Babylonians?
Good.
What do you mean it's irrelevant? It's talked about in rabbinic literature that they learned these calculations from the Babylonians.
We're not talking about my position right now, are we?
This is your position is that the oral Torah is necessary for this.
When did I talk my position?
Oh, you're defending you're arguing against our position. We're arguing against your position. That's what a debate is.
Okay.
You're arguing that without the rabbis and the oral Torah, you couldn't know when days were, like when days of the things in the year were.
You're going to be
but the rabbis admit that they updated things and used the Babylonian reckoning system to dictate the calendar.
We're talking about Yisrael's position.
That's your position. You follow the rabbinic system. You're claiming without it you couldn't keep these holidays, but your rabbis themselves admitted that they changed to a Babylonian system.
When did I say that you can't without the rabbanim?
Dude, we already know from your accent which side you're on. So
what do you mean?
What do you mean the rabbanim?
I never said that you can't without the rabbanim. I'm saying
I don't live in Borough Park.
Listen. According to your position, like you live in Borough Park, you don't know the exact day, so you cannot know
your neighborhood by your accent.
The 10th day of the 7th month is, and so according to
you see that I was able to guess his neighborhood by his accent.
Everyone's going to do Yom Kippur on their own day.
That easy. Okay, so I already responded to you. You don't want to hear the answer. The Torah, I'll get rid of him. The Torah says that you can calculate the months. It doesn't say a specific calculation that you need to do. You begin in the springtime, you count 7 months. You can use even the solar calendar for all you care. You can get to the 7th month, and on the 10th day of that month, you observe Yom Kippur and you afflict yourself. Very simple. You have to afflict yourself on the 10th of the 7th month. It does not say which calculation you need to use in the Torah. When we have a united nation in Israel keeping holidays together, we would need to have a united calendar. And guess what? As long as the calendar works, it works. Personally, I use the rabbinic calendar at the moment, and it's actually completely systemized for thousands of years, and it does work. So, I don't know, Ash, what calendar do you use?
Me?
Mhm.
Whatever the one my church uses.
Okay.
I think it's the Gregorian calendar.
Gregorian. You must be a min. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We got Max up here. Max, you there?
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah,
How are
hi.
you?
How are you guys?
Good. What's going on?
Okay, just a question. I was waiting. I heard Ash say
Are
that.
you the guy that got into it with Sam Shamoon that one time and he yelled at you on his stream?
No, I was with Sam on your channel once. I was asking you questions and you brought up Sam.
Oh, I thought I heard you on his stream also. Okay.
No, I was on the stream as well, but it was respectful.
No,
I mean,
no, I've heard you on mine. That I recognize who you are, but I was asking if it was you that I saw once on Sam's, but irrelevant. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So I had so you were saying that according to Rabbinic Judaism, the calculations for the month and all that came from the Babylonians. I don't remember seeing it anywhere.
There is something where is it Rabban Gamliel that says that I learned these things from my father, who learned them from,
right? So he says from his father, and his father from his father. So he didn't say Babylonians. He said like he learned it as a tradition.
He learned it during the Babylonian exile. It's specifically mentioned.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. So what I wanted to talk about is, okay, I don't know what you believe about it, Ash, but I know that Israel does. I remember you saying once that according to the Torah, to marry, let's say you want to marry a woman, the only thing is you have to live with her, and that's it. You don't have to go through like a chuppah and whatever, the whole ritual thing. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what the Torah says. Take a woman.
Okay, so I have a question. So what is the difference, according to the Torah, between a wife and a shifcha?
Shifcha is a slave.
No, but for example, we know the how do you say, the patriarchs, they had the shifchas, they had kids with other ladies, but they were like second class in a way. They were not
it
their
would be
wives.
simply the designation that the man gave to that woman.
Yeah, it's a title. Also, I mean, it's a title and a status, and ultimately it plays out in behavior.
Right, but they did the same thing, right? There's no like a ritual or something that it's basically the same thing, just what you call her.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What you call her, how you treat her. Also, it's not they were called shivchas, but then they became pilegesh, which is a concubine, right? Which is what.
But they still don't have the authority in the household of the wife.
Yeah, it's a status thing. And
it's
a level
designated by the man. It's the authority of the man, and by the way, in tribal culture in general.
Yeah, same thing with betrothal versus marriage, right? There's a betrothed woman who actually is under the penalty of adultery, according to the Torah, but a betrothed woman is different than a married woman, because when you marry a woman, you're living with her fully, you're fully invested in your marriage, and a betrothal is just a promise, but you're not yet living it out.
Right. So according to the Torah, if a pilegesh goes and sleeps around, does she have the same punishment as a wife?
Well, that's a different question, which is a pilegesh a wife, right? Because we've already acknowledged that you can have different designations for different women. It's not 100% clear what the story is with the pilegesh. I mean, she's kind of a part wife. You have Reuven sleeping with his father's pilegesh, but there was no witnesses. So,
again, we're talking about a patriarchal tribal designation of a family, right? So the question that we're asking is, does the concubine have the same
adultery
moral requirements or accountability to the man? Yes, more so, but not for the same reason.
Yeah,
meaning it would not necessarily be designated the same way as the wife, but it would obviously be equally problematic and bad.
Yeah, it would not necessarily be the case that there's adultery for that. It is a genuinely interesting question as to whether a concubine is under the laws of adultery.
Right, because the Torah does make a distinction between a concubine and a wife.
It makes
and
it
always when the Torah speaks about punishment for, let's say, sleeping around, it always uses the word wife.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't speak about concubine. So I would say, just according to the Torah
itself, let's remember that the word for wife also means woman. So that's also a category that could be arbitrary and up to the judge and the man.
Mm-hmm, because if she is his woman, right, then that
regardless of her status and category.
Right. And
right. So why does the Torah call a shifcha different word, or what was the other one you used?
It's her status in the family. She's not designated the wife of the man.
Right. So when the Torah speaks about the laws of stoning an adulterous wife, does that include
Another one
shifra?
making a great case for Christianity, by the way.
Why? How so?
Because these categories would have been discussed by our Lord Jesus Christ, and the morality of and requirements of a man to a woman that goes far beyond what we would have seen in the times of the Torah when it was given.
How would Christianity deal with this?
That there is supposed to be one man and one wife, and they are bound, and they are one flesh, and let no man separate what God has joined, ruling out the ability to have maidservant wives and concubines and all that.
Yeah, so I want to expand on that. So let's say you're saying that you just take a woman to your home and she's your wife. Now, let's say she sleeps around. Her claim is you were just boyfriend, girlfriend, not a wife. You say she's my wife. There's no way to prove that if there was no official ceremony that's
you prove it the same way you prove anything else of property laws, essentially, in that time frame before there was documents and evidence. You would have witnesses and you would go to a court.
Yeah, you wouldn't need to go through a ritual or a ceremony. Like if me and my wife decide that we're married, we come downstairs and tell our family and friends, hey, we're married. And then 10 people just heard my wife say that she's my wife and heard me say that I took her as a wife. So I don't need to have a rabbinic ritual in order to establish witnesses.
Right. And what if she brings her friends and say, no, she was not his wife? Like if you have, that's why I'm saying
the conversation for a sec.
Yeah.
Can you pull up the comment from Renato84BR?
Yes. Trying to find that. Yeah, keep going, Max.
Yeah. So. Yes, I'm saying so. Like
fourth comment up.
The reason is why I would say that you do need to have like a system of a court that you have to get married by them, is because if the court knows that you are married through them, then you can't play these games. And like you are officially married. If you're not listed by the court, you're not married.
What happens if you lose your document?
No, I'm saying the court has it written down.
What if they lose their document?
Okay, that's already up to the court. I'm saying
what if you
go to witnesses?
Yeah, or what if you bring witnesses counter to what the court documented? I mean, you're just describing
even today in modern legal systems, if you don't have a marriage document with the county or whatever it is, and you live together, common law, and then you claim to be man and wife, like you can bring evidence to that of witnesses and things that you've done together and children that you've had and all kinds of other ways that you reckon this, that even with no document, you prove that you're married. That's happened back then, and it happens today. I don't know what the issue and confusion is.
No, but it's different because according to the Torah, there's certain punishment if someone cheats. I'm just going to answer
this question quickly. What are you doing with these lowlives? You're damaging the movement. One, I'd hardly call Israel a lowlife. Remember that for me going to also that me getting to Christianity, it was left Judaism over some time and then found Christianity when I was looking for the truth. So I'd hardly say that even what Israel is doing as promoting Torah only Judaism, I would like whether or not I have a problem with that. I also consulted my priest before I made the decision to work with Israel on these things. Well, not my priest. I consulted a spiritual guide involved in our clergy. So correction there. But yeah, I checked with people if this was appropriate to be doing before I made the decision to do it. And so long that it is fruitful and edifying, I don't see any issue with it. And again, I would hardly call Israel a lowlife, and I don't know how I'm damaging anything by doing it. So
thank you for the defense there. I'm glad I'm not a lowlife, but yeah, I mean, we're here to talk about the truth of the Bible.
Oh, I get it. It was a joke based on a comment from the previous video. Okay, cool.
Oh, okay. I guess that was very serious. But that's
yeah, so
can you read this or is it backwards?
True Israel.
Mirrored. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah,
it's only backwards for me, right?
It's backwards, but I could still read it. Anyway, the apostles were all Jews and the rabbis were all goyim.
Yep.
I love it. This is true.
Yeah, so it's going back also like the same concept about, let's say someone that wants to convert to Judaism, right? So according to you, Israel, you're saying that if someone wants to convert, just has to start keeping the Torah, and that's enough. Like, for example, your wife, right? And then she's considered whatever under the covenant or whatever. But now we know according to the Torah, non-Jews don't have to keep Shabbos. Jews do. So if someone now claims he converted, didn't go through a process by a court, then he violates Shabbos. He has to be killed for it. He says, no, I didn't convert. I just decided to do it to keep it myself. I was keeping part of it. I was never converted. He keep playing these games. You have to have a concrete.
Again, you realize that even a based in works on a witness basis, right? So why can't you also have a witness as to the status and category of people?
Well, how can you prove that someone intentionally really wanted to keep the laws, right? Someone was living and saying, so I keep the Shabbos.
Yeah, I understand. There's 2
you
points
can't
here.
Prove somebody's intent and heart even when they go through a rabbinic conversion process. You just trust what they're saying.
Right. So the idea is like you don't need official court documentation. You need witness testimony. That's how everything's established in the Torah. And if you have witnesses who have seen this person accept that he is a Torah observant person, then he has made it clear that he is now living amongst Israel. Another thing you're not pointing out, which is that a biblical convert is a sojourner, meaning he literally lives in the land and he's under the law of the Shabbat. In the 10 Commandments, it says you, your servant, your maidservant, and your sojourner who's in your midst, everyone has to keep the Shabbat. So it's the law of the land. And so if someone wants to live among Israel, they have to keep Shabbat at threat of death.
So according to you, in the land of Israel, there's no non-Jews?
Well, they're non-Jews who keep the Torah. They don't.
So they are Jews if they keep the Torah.
Yeah, but that's not what do you mean a Jew? Like they follow the Jewish creed, the religion of.
Yeah, I mean on the Moses covenant.
Yeah, they're not Jews. I mean, Jews presumably refer to a ethnic group, but yeah, they are they're following the religion of the Torah, the law, which is the law of the land.
Yeah, I just spaced out. What was my question here?
You gotta know your question.
No, I was trying to make a point basically about someone that a foreigner, right?
Can I ask? Do you think this question about marriage and who counts as a Jew proves that there is an oral Torah?
No, this case does not. This case just proves that you need to have like a law and order. Basically, to have a court that they decide who's who, and you have to go everything through them, just like we have. I think
we both agree
courts.
with you on there. So I don't know what the
right. But my contention was about Israel, that he was saying that someone to marry according to Torah, you just have to live together. You don't have to tell anyone nothing, and you consider married. So
right. But if there was a concern with whether or not that was true, you would bring it to a court.
Right.
And the court has one thing to rely on: witness testimony. Right. So it doesn't matter whether you go through all the rabbinic rituals, which, by the way, we should point out, include saying many blessings over a cup of wine and writing a certain document and standing under a canopy and having a whole like that. None of that's necessary in order to have witness testimony. There are all people all around are witnesses. So there's no shortage of witnesses for these things.
Yeah. Here. Okay. One more thing before I leave. I just wanted to say that there's a big misconception about the oral Torah. For example, a lot of people say it's another Torah. It's like they look at it as another Torah. It's purely the explanation of the written Torah. So the written Torah writes stuff.
It's not true.
Well, it's not the explanation. It's an explanation.
That's not true, because Rabbinic Judaism claims that the proof of it is using the word Torot, which is two multiple Torahs. So you're actually contradicting what rabbis use as a proof of the oral Torah.
Right. So some, I agree with you. Some rabbis say it, but in the Talmud, when it uses that term, it's using it as a drash, not as a proof. It doesn't use it as a.
But that's a category you're determining that after the fact.
No. So if you read it out, they just saying it as a drash. Right? They read out different psukim, different verses, and they say this and that. They didn't use it as apologetics to use that as a proof. Later rabbis, yes, I agree with you.
Right. The rabbis of the Talmud, I agree. They did not know, when they were having these ridiculous discussions, that somebody 2,000 years later would be scrutinizing it and going, "That's ridiculous." I'm sure that that's true.
Right. And brother, by the way, just because the Talmud is an explanation of the Torah or an interpretation doesn't mean it's the interpretation. As in, everything that the Talmud says is debatable. It's quite literally debates between rabbis, and a lot of the things they say have no basis in scripture. Like I go through like actual rabbinic conversations, and what they're saying is entirely arbitrary and subjective. You know, like for the previous guy who wants to say, I get rid of my subjectivity by obeying rabbis. It's like, yeah, you're just listening to other people's subjective opinions. At the end of the day, if the Talmud is a dialogue about the Torah, then we should continue that dialogue today and not just leave it to the rabbis of 2,000 years ago.
So can I ask you while you're still here? Okay. I want to ask you some questions as well, if that's okay.
Yeah, I have a few minutes I think to go, but yeah, a few
Okay.
minutes I have.
Do you think that prophecy ended at the time of Malachi and that the canon was closed by the men of the Great Assembly in 300 BC?
So the canon, I'm not sure about. The prophecy, I do believe that the prophecy ended around that time, but there were still types of revelation. For example, through dreams, through bat call, which is a lower type of prophecy, but the prophecy like prophets had, yeah, that ended around that time.
So you don't believe that the canon was closed by the men of the Great Assembly 300 years before Jesus?
No, I'm just not sure. I'm not that familiar on the topic, so I'm not.
But that's
sure.
a fundamental claim of Judaism that's used to rule out later prophecy and scripture, right? Specifically meant to inoculate the Jewish people from Christianity, right? So if that's not true, on what basis do you rule out later books that were considered inspired by Jews of the time? So Sirach, Wisdom of Solomon, Maccabees, right? You can only rule those out as scripture definitively if you do believe the claim that the canon was closed after Malachi.
Yes, so the way I look at what scripture is and what came in our tradition, the rabbinic tradition, that's what I see as scripture.
Right, so the rabbinic tradition claims about that it was closed canon in 300 BC.
Okay, so you're saying it did not close back then?
Well, the problem is that rabbis after the Mishnah are arguing about which books are scripture or not.
Right, so the Talmud brings down like Ezekiel and Song of Songs, but they bring it down. Right, but they bring it down as a
Sirach was scripture, and they're like, "What? It's not scripture?" It's like, no, because remember they said the canon was closed, and it's not in there. Shh. Don't say that out loud.
Yeah, but
it even turned into a discussion where Rabbi Akiva is like, "Don't read any extra biblical material," and one of his students, like 10 years later, is like, "Also, don't read Sirach." It's like that's a very specific one to bring up. Why is that? Right, because they're obviously trying to rule out books that Christians are using at the time, right?
It's possible, but basically, yeah. Why
Greek,
I would say
anything existing in Greek manuscript form.
No, why? Okay, first of all, like there are books that did not enter the how do you call it, the canon, because we believe that the canon, whatever enters, whatever is relevant to our generation till Messiah, till the end of the days. Now there were other books that were written down by prophets, but we didn't preserve it because it wasn't relevant till the time of Messiah, till the end of the days. So we've put in the canon whatever will be relevant till the end.
Why isn't the gospel according to Matthew scripture?
Okay, so that contradicts the Old Testament.
Can you point to somewhere in the gospel according to Matthew that contradicts the Old Testament?
Okay, I'm not that familiar, but I'm assuming that Matthew believes that Jesus is God. Right?
I mean, we would think that Matthew believes that Jesus is God, yeah.
Right, so that kind of, according to us, contradicts the Old Testament.
What part of the Old Testament does that contradict?
Okay, for example, in Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 6, I believe it's 9 verse 6, says that God alone, he created the world. The world, yeah, he created alone. Now, levado can be used only for one person.
Right, so this is the problem. So this is what I wanted to bring up. This is the rabbinic presupposition about Christianity, right? You think that we believe that there's a God and then Jesus, who's also a God, who's a man God that's different than God. That's not what we believe. We believe Jesus is God, the same God of the Old Testament.
Right, but you believe he's a separate person. You believe there's three persons in that Godhead.
Right, but the word person and what you're thinking does not mean a separate being, right? Which is what you think it means.
Right, but my thing is that levado could only mean one person. How do I know that? Because I know in John, I can look it up which chapter and verse it is. Jesus says that he judges truth. Why? Because he's not judging alone. He's judging with the Father. It means him and the Father
right, because they're
together
the
is not alone. It's not levado. Levado would not consist. It is levado
because they're the same God.
No, but he says it's not me levadi because I'm with the Father. It means in order to him be levadi, it's without the Father.
So
it makes a distinction.
The claim of Christianity is that Jesus is of the exact same nature of the Father. That they are one God by nature and by definition.
So why does he make a distinction in John?
Because their roles in the Trinity are different.
Right, so he does make a distinction, right? He says that I'm not alone, I'm with the Father.
Right, but they are still one God.
Right, I agree.
You've
They're
made
one.
a category where you don't believe that God could be three persons, but you don't have any basis in Torah to say that.
Right, so I'm saying I agree they are one. They could still be one, but not alone. Not
So
alone.
this
Alone
one
cannot
God
be for three
alone,
persons.
this one God alone, who is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, created everything, right? We look in Genesis, we see the Holy Spirit creates. We look at Job to confirm that, right? We look at Jewish tradition, that the memra of God did these things. The word of God did these actions, right? This is Second Temple consensus among the Jewish people, essentially, with the exception of some Sadducees, right? So the question is, why are we going with a later strict Unitarian Islamic Aristotelian category of God and not an earlier Jewish category of God?
Right, so I'm going based on Nehemiah, which he says levado, levad. Now, if it would be three persons, in Hebrew you would say levadchem or levadam. That's how you say more than one person.
It's one being. That's why it's singular, but there's also pluralities of how we refer to the actions and things, because it's the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, right? But it's one God.
Right. So in John he uses levadi, not levadeinu, when he refers him and not with the God, right? No. He's saying I'm not alone, not levadi, because I'm with the Father. That would be levadeinu. The opposite of what Nehemiah says, which is levado. Levado can never mean the three persons. Levadchem or levadam could be more than one person. Not only that, also it says in Deuteronomy Shema, right? The Shema, two verses after that.
So you don't think that a plural could ever refer to a singular or singular to plural when you're talking about a group of persons that are one entity, right?
The singular what again?
Meaning, could you refer to Israel in the singular for servant?
Yeah.
But it's a collection of people. It's not one thing.
Correct. That's why in the Torah, when it speaks about collection of persons, it says levadchem. It doesn't say levado. The only place we use levado, right. It's about God.
So you think that Isaiah 53 is about a singular subject?
Okay, so that's already because
when it's convenient, we can shift the category.
No, it could mean the whole Israel.
Could you admit
that
sometimes when we're talking about a single entity, multiple persons category, that you can interchangeably use plurals and singulars for said subject?
Yes, but the word levado,
except when it refers to Christianity.
No, that's unique. Just like yachid. Yachid can never be used more than one person. Just like levado, because you use levadchem or levadam.
So you'd also admit that when it says Hashem Echad in the Shema, that it could be referring to multiple persons?
Not in the Shema because of the context, but Echad could be used to Am Echad, right? One nation.
Hold on. Why couldn't it be used because of the context to refer to multiple persons?
Because the context
of man and woman becoming one flesh is also echad.
Can I just interject?
Right, but the context says that's two people becoming one. So based on the context, it's two becoming into one. The context here,
two persons who are three persons of one entity could also be one, right? One entity.
Right, but it doesn't say it in the Shema.
The entity would be one, right? So God is one being. So I get that you can't wrap your head around this idea that God could exist in a category that is not fully comprehensible to how our brains would work, right? So a human being would not be able to comprehend fully what it's like to be three persons in one being, but God potentially could, right?
No, it's not that. I'm just looking at the verses what the Torah says. Now, logically, anything can be possible.
But the verses of the Torah and the Tanakh in general, right, refer to a Holy Spirit that creates, refers to an angel that does things that only God does consistently throughout the text, right? You have two Yahwehs being cited at Sinai, one of whom is seen by the elders of Israel, the other one who is not seen, and then you have the presence of the Lord with them that rests on Sinai, right? The Trinity is all but explicit at Sinai. Right?
Again,
the only reason Jews of the centuries before the time of Jesus believed in this multiplicity in God. It's throughout manuscripts. Philo talks about the Logos of God. The Aramaic Targumim, which are orthodox to Judaism, also refer to the memra of the Lord doing things where the angel did them or where God did them in separate categories. Even rabbinic literature says that the second Yahweh on Sinai is the angel of the Lord from Exodus 23. That's an accepted category in Judaism, right? It's only through a later lens of Aristotelian philosophy adopted by Maimonides through an Islamic lens that you then change this where it can't be like that.
No, so for example, the Targumim, like the Onkelos, he says the word, the memra, he doesn't use it as a person. It's not a separate person. Yes, he says the word because he's trying to depersonify God. That's why. That's another proof that it's
No,
not
that's
started by Maimonides.
that's a later claim
No.
about why he's using that category.
No, you can see all
That's
over the Tanakh.
that's
the
a
Torah.
justification after the fact.
You can
which
see
is
all
what
over the
Judaism
Torah
does
that
a lot.
Onkelos takes, when God says, "My hand took you out of Egypt," he doesn't say
Right.
Onkelos hand.
Onkelos is a much later Targum. I'm talking about Targum Yonatan. I don't care about.
No, I'm talking about Onkelos.
Onkelos was a Roman convert under Rabbi Akiva. I don't really particularly
right.
care
That
what
was
Onkelos has to
when.
say.
That was when.
In
That was like 1,000 years before Maimonides.
Supposedly
still
2nd century.
Right. That was like 1,000 years before Maimonides.
Yeah, except with the earliest manuscript of the Mishnah we have is like the 10th century. So I don't particularly buy that Rabbi Akiva is even a real person. But regardless,
yeah, we do have a new guest.
I don't particularly care about Onkelos' opinion on this matter.
We do have a new
guest. No, it just shows that Rabbinic Judaism did believe it earlier because they believed in Onkelos. They praised Onkelos in the Talmud, and Onkelos himself tried to make God look less physical. When God uses anthropomorphic, the Torah uses anthropomorphic languages.
Right,
but
the specific category but the specific category of strict Unitarianism doesn't exist before then. But regardless,
okay, I guess we'll continue next different time. Okay, it was nice speaking to you guys, and have a good night.
All right, Max.
Thank you.
Okay.
Isn't that nice when somebody comes up respectfully and has a nice conversation and gives decent points that you can actually have a conversation about, that you actually have to wrap your head around and think, hey, well, how do I talk about this thing?
I would say I don't buy the Jewish argument at all that there can't be multiple personalities or aspects to God or manifestations of God. My contention with the Trinity is just the number 3. I mean, I know you said like you see Yahweh standing with Moses on the mountain and then Yahweh calling out and Yahweh passing over. Is that like where you see it by Sinai?
You have multiple instances. I mean, there's the Father that says that he's never going to be seen, the God that no one sees.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the, as the New Testament puts it, the perfect icon of the Father, right? Right. The image of the unseen God is the Son. But that's explicitly what you see at Sinai is God calls them up to Yahweh and they behold the God of Israel and eat before him. And they see his feet standing on pavement of sapphire. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a theophany of Christ. This is the Son before the incarnation.
Could that be like either metaphorical feet or just the feet and not the head?
Well, then you have a simple.
Because
it says they beheld the God and they saw him standing with his feet on the pavement of sapphire.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pointing out that they can see literally where he's standing and what he's standing on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But it says they behold him, which means they beheld the person.
Right. So you're saying that when God manifests in the flesh, that is the Son?
When Abraham sees God on the plains of Mamre, he's seeing the Son pre-incarnate, which I wouldn't know, like speculation about what that looks like. Right. But like nobody's going to give you a clear answer on like, yeah, definitively, this is what the pre-incarnate Christ looked like before he had a physical body that he took on.
Right. But I just still don't see where the number 3 comes from.
Because it references constantly the Spirit of God as a person who is grieved by Israel. The Holy Spirit of God that created, like according to is it in Proverbs and Job, I think. And then also in creation hovered over the breath of God that goes in, the spirit that animates man, right? Right. These are explicit categories that are constantly throughout Tanakh. There's an angel of the Lord, the angel that redeems, the angel that saves. I thought God alone saves. I thought God alone redeems. Right. And we're not talking about a human person,
but
like
the angel
of Israel.
The angel is a messenger.
But this angel does that category.
It's a messenger.
Right, but you're assuming that this specific angel is just a agency thing, which is a later category that people are determining what that means. Yes, there are angels that are non-corporeal things that have agency to act, but they're not worshipped in the way that this particular one is worshipped. People falling down before him and worshiping him and making altars to him and calling him the God of Israel, right? And then there's the Holy Spirit, which acts as a person.
Where are they building altars to the angel?
Jacob built an altar to the God of Bethel, right?
But he saw Yahweh.
Saw God's face.
Well, he doesn't see his face, but he sees Yahweh on top of the ladder.
So what does he see if the Father can't be seen, or if Yahweh can't be seen? Who did he see?
Well, he saw a vision of Yahweh. I mean, it says Moses.
So this is a category that Jews struggled with after this, right? Because they pushed away Christianity. Well, how do you do this? Well, eventually, everyone sees the problem with this. How does the unseen God manifest?
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, well, the
You
clear
eventually get
answer,
Kabbalah talking about
well,
like
no,
emanations.
yeah, but the
and
clear
worlds
answer
and
is
stuff.
the clear answer is that if at the highest level you cannot see God's face and live, if you are seeing God in some manifestation, whether in the flesh or in a bush or in a cloud, that's clearly not the highest encounter with God you can have. Like
Well, what does that mean, highest and lowest? Like, what are those categories, and how do you
the
determine that?
totality. I mean, if you're having a face-to-face encounter, full on, because it says Moses couldn't see his face and live, but also Moses spoke to him face to face, right? So you
Right.
have to
So
try
Christianity
to reconcile.
explains that specific person that's listed,
Mhm.
that angel of the Lord, that Yahweh who is seen, is the Son.
Okay. What about like the consuming
Why is
fire
that?
of the Lord?
Isn't that more?
Is that the fourth rail? Like, what about the consuming fire of the Lord? Or what about the fact that like
Well,
God creates?
so the fact that they saw consuming fire is a physical manifestation and
Well,
representation.
Moses says that
it doesn't mean
God,
the fire is God.
Moses
right?
says Yahweh your God is a consuming fire.
Right. So that's a descriptive term for what they're seeing, which is this presence, right? So that would be
Mhm.
the presence of God. That would not be
But
the Son.
how do you know? How are you able to isolate just three components of God?
Because it's
like,
always the same three
Why?
components.
How about this? Why can't we just use the number one? If that's the number we're
Because there are
provided
three
with?
components and so that's the thing. So your presupposition is that revelation ended in the capacity of Sinai at Sinai.
Okay.
But that's a presupposition that contradicts what God says, because God says that some point in the future he is going to come again and you will identify him by these same signs.
Mhm.
When did that happen in history?
Where does it say that God will come again?
When God says he's going to reveal himself again, and you're going to know him by these signs and wonders that no one can know, that you've not ever seen before, right? So the Christian claim, I'll look it up in a second. The Christian claim is that, I assume you're taking me at my word here. The Christian claim is that the miracles of Jesus, validated by him raising himself from the dead, is a miracle that had not been seen and could not be done by anyone else, right? You have resurrections, but nobody raising themselves from the dead, right? If that's the case, God would be vindicating a false prophet through active measures, which would make God a deceiver.
Right, but I'm not even arguing with you that Jesus is negative or false. I'm just saying I still don't see the need.
Right, but if we take that Jesus is not negative or false, then he's the second person of the Trinity and the Son of God.
But why must
there's no gray area. Like this idea that Jesus is a wise man and a rabbi and a prophet, but not God.
No. But
is
because
less
you
coherent.
say that there is one God, right? Then why can't we just work with the going number of one? That's kind of my issue. Like
we do go with the going number of one. There
so let's
is
just
one
say
God.
one.
We say
why do
Father,
we have to,
Son, and Holy Spirit, one God forever and ever.
right? But who are we to identify these three particular components of God? Like
it's not
what about
it's the second person of that Trinity.
God creates man and woman in his image, right? So that means clearly there's a feminine aspect to God if he can create woman in his image. So does that mean, what about the mother God?
I don't understand your question.
God creates male, female in his image, right?
Right.
Which means
because we don't take Manus Freeman's version in the intro.
Yes, we don't take the
because God is not literally a human.
We don't take the
male
midrashic claim that
when God took on flesh, he took on the flesh of a human male.
Right.
But God himself is not a human male.
For sure. Yet masculine, feminine, father and son are two masculine representations.
But also when we say the image of God, we also don't mean genitalia. We mean the likeness of God.
Sure.
Right? The capacity for reason and goodness and all those things.
But
it's not a physical.
Where is mother God? Where is daughter God?
Right, because you didn't listen to what I just said. It's not the physicality of the person that is the image of God.
I know. I don't mean the physicality of it. I mean like the nature, the feminine nature, the maternal nature that is in the image of God.
Because the human capacity for reason, goodness, and participation in the divine is not a category that is male or female.
Of course, but there is masculine and feminine.
Male or female is the biological creation. It's not the image of God.
Correct. But
does that make sense?
Correct. But by you referring to God as a father, you're referring to God as a masculine entity. Right. Would you agree?
Well, that's because that's the terms that we were given, but that doesn't mean God is literally a human male, that the God the Father is literally a human male.
Right. Which means that we're given certain
It's a category term, right?
Right.
So you could call it person 1, person 2, and person 3. Like,
of course, okay. But we're given certain terms in which to relate to God,
because those are human categories of language.
Right. And using Exodus or Deuteronomy, we're told God is Yahweh, God is one. So why would we depart from those identifications provided to us by God himself?
We don't depart from those in Christianity. Yahweh is one God.
Right. So then why can't we just stop there? Why do we have to lay out and break up God into three persons only to say that those are one? Like if anything that is truly God
because
is part
that
of
same
the
God
same,
told us to do that.
God told us to find the Trinity within him?
No, he described the Trinity to us, talking about his Father and his Spirit and himself. Right? The fact that this is a misunderstanding here. So the fact that Nicaea came up with dogma and doctrine to define these roles doesn't mean that that's what the role is. Those are definitions and dogmas as to how to speak about them, engage with them, and understand them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not because the church declared a Trinity that there is a Trinity. The Trinity is there because that's how God described himself to us. We use the term Trinity as a dogma to explain these things to people in a creed.
So you're saying because
this is what the faith believes.
You're saying because
we don't believe the Trinity because Nicaea said there's a Trinity. We believe that because Nicaea codified what was already understood.
So you're saying because Jesus introduced himself as the Son, he introduced us.
Yehuda Yisrael is in the chat. You say you're waiting. You're a psychopath who's done crazy things on streams before. If you could give me a good reason in the chat why I should let you up, please do so, and then we'll consider it.
Let's let Yochanan up. I appreciate the conversation. I would just say again that the issue I run into is like, okay, so you're saying Jesus reveals the Son aspect of God, but it's like, how do we know that's where it ends? How do we know it ends with that? It's just because that's what's been revealed to us. What if that's
what God revealed to us?
But what if there's like an infinite more amounts or different character?
You let me know when that happens, and I'll reconsider my position.
Okay, so then we'll start worshiping a four. Like we'll do like a 4 square cross. Like why can't we just stick with one and Yahweh? That's my issue. Like even if you
stick with one with Yahweh, well, Yahweh is one God.
Okay, we agree on that. All right, let's bring up Yochanan. Hey, Yochanan. How are you? Are you there? Yochanan.
Yoichi.
Okay. You can try to get your audio in order.
I'm so sorry, gentlemen.
Oh, there you are. Yochanan.
So sorry. Tadara Ba for letting me join. Israel, I love what you're doing. You're providing a platform for a lot of great guys that have studied, put in the effort to study his word. I like your guest. What is your guest name again, please?
Thank you. This is Ash Maizcome.
Ash
Former ultra-Orthodox Jew, now Catholic.
Oh, awesome.
If you were watching on my chat, then Israel would be my guest. But since you're watching on Israel's channel, I'm his guest.
I'll have to check that out. I am a founder of Christianity. A Roman Catholic. I was until I was 30 years old. And actually, I had already been to Israel and lived on the Mount of Olives twice in the 80s and heard about this thing. And I was a staunch Catholic. These are the founders of Christianity. Remember this. And I only say that because 2 billion today make up 2 billion people today make up only 4 denominations of the man-made religion labeled Christus. And that's an illegal label, by the way. If you know the Torah, you will see you cannot mix man's ways with God, right? You can't label a Messiah, Christ even though Paul, Shaul did call him the Mashiach or Christos.
I'm just gonna.
Yeah,
I'm going to get to my question. I'm going to get to my question just right now. Sorry, thank you for letting me elaborate.
Yeah, this is not a preaching platform.
No, I know, but I had to get some background of how I came out of Christianity and a believer in Yeshua. Now the question is,
interrupt you again.
Why can't we unite?
Yes, you behave like a psychopath. You come on. You filibuster, you interrupt, and then leave before anyone can answer you. You've done that twice on my stream now. Yehuda Yisrael.
No, this is someone else.
You've done that twice on my streams now. You've come on, filibustered, ranted what you had to say,
it's the
and
adversary.
then left. You told me you had 15 minutes. You told me
the adversary that's interrupting my conversation.
Yeah,
All right.
well, you're interrupting me now, so you can go. Yeah, Yehuda, you told me that you had 15 minutes last time, and then you ranted for 7 minutes and left. So if you're saying you have 45 minutes this time, I don't really believe you. Give me a good reason why I should, because you've lied twice now.
Can I ask my simple question?
You got 2
Yes, go ahead.
seconds. Go ahead. Yeah.
Why cannot we unite in his Moedim? Israel explained the Moedim. I know you both know what Moedim means. Why can we not unite in the simple instructions of doing, say, Sukkot? I do it every year
When you
for
were a
20 years.
Catholic, can I ask, when you were a Catholic, did you go to the Novus Ordo or the Latin Mass?
Latin.
Latin Mass?
Yes,
Was it Mozarabic or Galician Rite?
Too young to understand even what that means, or I was
Okay,
then.
never mind.
I haven't been
That's
to a Catholic Mass since 1981.
Never mind. I was just checking.
Yeah.
My point is, the focus is on the simple instructions. Remember, a child must hear and be taught, but a child could understand and do. Why do we make this so difficult? Why? This is not difficult.
Well, I agree with you. I think everyone should keep God's festivals. Definitely people that want to keep the Torah, definitely
From the heart.
Jews. But so you'll have to ask Ash why he thinks he shouldn't keep the festivals.
That's my question.
in
Thank you for
Leviticus
listening.
23.
Thank you. Toda Rabah.
Bivakasha. So
Why I don't think we should keep the festivals?
yeah,
Which festivals?
in Leviticus 23, like the
There's 7.
Passover.
7.
Because I believe we're
Shavuot.
living in the era of the new covenant that God established and came.
It's a renewed covenant, no?
Why do you think it's renewed? It says it's a new covenant.
Does that mean that the previous laws?
There is new. There is a new
Regardless
issue.
of whether you think that means that or not, it's not what it doesn't say renewed. It says new.
I would agree that it's I say renewed, but there is a new, and that is the penalty of death of stoning is not applied anymore. If you believe in what Yeshua did, I totally agree. That's new, right? So there's 7 covenants, a covenant of peace that was given to Phineas. No man has ever received yet. So there's another one coming too. But I just ask the simple question. My goodness, I do Sukkot with a million other people every year. And 20 years ago, we didn't even hardly know what the Feast of Tabernacles
How long
was.
have you been doing Sukkot for?
About 20 years now.
So I've done Sukkot many more times than you have. Does that answer your question?
Well, I'm sorry. I was just asking, can we all unite with the simple things?
No, we have different doctrines and theologies on what we believe. I believe
No,
that
not
you
the
are
Torah is the
worshiping
same
God
for
correctly.
everyone. The Torah is the same for everyone.
Yeah, but that's a silly argument because we all interpret it differently, right?
Oh, it's simple things a child can understand. He must hear it. He must hear it, of course. The parent has to.
Yehuda
to
Yisrael,
speak it.
are you in the studio still? Is
Yeah,
he in
he's
the
right
studio?
there. Should we bring him up?
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
Have a
Thank
good
you
evening.
for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you, Yochanan.
Not,
All the
not on
best.
topic or relevant. But,
Yeah.
Yehuda, come up.
All right, let's get him.
Can you hear me?
Shalom, can you hear me?
Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. All right. The last 2 times that you came on to my streams, I let you cross-examine me, meaning you asked questions about my beliefs and I had to defend those claims. Okay. Before I could finish giving you answers you weren't happy with, you left. Right? So here's what we can do now if you want to have this discussion. First, I'll cross-examine you for 10 minutes, and then you can cross-examine me for a further 10 minutes. Does that
Okay,
work?
let's do it.
Okay. And by the way, if you dodge questions, I'm going to boot you. Works? Just like you ran
I mean,
away. Just like
I'm
you
not-
ran away.
I mean, look,
You didn't like
we're
my,
gonna have
you
a
didn't like
civil
my
dis-
answers and you left. We're not going
No,
to.
I told you I had limited time before. Now I have 40 minutes at
It's
least.
most certainly not going to be civil.
Well, I have 40 minutes, so let's do it.
Do you believe that it is morally just, a righteous thing, or good behavior in any capacity for a grown man to circumcise a child and suck blood from that wound?
I do not believe that that is something that should be done.
Good. So you've condemned all of Judaism. Boot him things. Thank you. Goodbye. We'll play your game. Kick
All
him.
of Judaism?
Yes, all Jews believe that is mandatory for Brit Milah if you're Orthodox in any capacity. Goodbye.
Should we
That's
get him
not
out?
true.
Get him
That's
out.
simply not true.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Through a glass straw. Fine. Get rid of him. Thank you.
Okay.
See, we can play the same game. I can ask you questions and then boot you, which is what you did. But thank you for condemning all Orthodox Jews in the history of Judaism on my show. I appreciate it. Next caller. Actually, I have a few super chats. Can you bring them up?
Yeah, let's try to find them. Yeah, well, that's definitely interesting to hear that he thinks it's fine.
No, he doesn't think it's
Well,
fine. At least he condemned it. Great.
Well, yeah,
Good for him.
he thinks it's fine to condemn it. But that's the whole point. It's like once you start to condemn Rabbinic Judaism, you can condemn whatever you like.
He doesn't keep Orthodox Judaism. It's explicitly not a kosher brit, according to Jewish law, if you don't suck the blood from the wound. Now, modern Jews will generally use a glass tube. Even the Reform women rabbis will do that because it's mandatory under Jewish law. If you don't affirm that, you have affirmed that Judaism is false. So in his attempt to stay on the moral high ground, which I applaud him for, he condemned all of Judaism. Thank you. We can play this game. You want me to go to the heavy punches right away? I'll do it.
I mean,
we're being nice by having theological debates. Judaism is a ridiculous religion, right? That will affirm things are from Sinai because a rabbi in the 2nd century said you have to do it for health reasons. It's explicitly listed as for health reasons, and yet they'll say it goes back to Sinai as a law of God.
Yeah, I love the medical advice.
Yeah. Also, eat small fish. They were right about that one. Sardines are really good for you.
Yeah.
Rabbis aren't always wrong.
Here, we got a super chat right here. Nehemiah Gordon.
Yeah, I'm not well versed with Nehemiah Gordon. I understand he's a very nice guy. I disagree. I think it's pronounced Yahweh. And okay, for the person in the chat saying I'm a bum, have a civil debate, you missed the part where on my last 2 streams that I let Yehuda come on, he filibustered, ranted, made accusations, and left before he could be answered fully. That's why I did that. I gave him a chance to actually defend Judaism, which he declined. He decided to not seem immoral, right? So he went against Judaism consensus. What's the issue? What's the point of having a discussion? He denies Judaism is a true religion. He did that in the first 3 minutes. Why, in the first 2 minutes? Why would I have a discussion further with him? He doesn't believe in Judaism. He believes in anti-Christianity. That's what he believes in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think if we go with the Jewish pronunciation of letters currently, where the Vav is a V sound, then it would be Yehovah. But if you pronounce the Vav as a W sound, then it would be Yahweh. So, I mean,
the person saying I just have a problem with the Jewish community. No, I have many good friends in the Jewish community. I personally had a great time in the Jewish community. I have no bone to pick with Jews. I still study with Jews from the Jewish community. I still get together with Jews from the Jewish community. You're just making stuff up. I think Judaism is a false religion and Christianity is true, and that's why I do this.
Yeah, I would say same for me. Never had a negative experience with Judaism. Just don't believe in it and want to make that clear. So let's pull up David here. Hi, David.
Hey, how's it going? Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah. What's going on?
Awesome. I've been listening to both of your guys' streams for quite some time, but it's my first time being able to speak to you guys. And I have a couple questions for you, Israel. First of all, my background, I am an Orthodox Jew. So just to put that out there. My question for you is like, where do you get, and like the people who think like you, who have your worldview of like a Torah only Jew, like where do you guys get your canon from? Like, what is your canon based off of, and what's the historicity of that? If you don't mind walking me through that.
The canon is called the 5 books of Moses. It's the first 5 books of the Bible. That's where all of the history and legal code is contained. That's where all the laws are that you may not add or subtract to. That's what I follow. I don't refer to anywhere else other than the 5 books of Moses for a point of authority on Torah matters. As far as the historicity of Jews behaving this way, I mean, there's a very vast history of Jews behaving very differently over time, whether they were in complete denial of the Torah, worshiping idols and other gods and acting immorally, or creating their own traditions. All of that exists, but there have been groups of Israelites and Jews throughout the history, like the Karaites, notably the Samaritans, number of African Israelites as well, people maintaining Israelite identity who only follow scripture and don't follow the Talmud. So while the dominant form of Judaism in the past 2,000 years, which by the way have been 2,000 years of exile for the Jews, has been the rabbinic authorities, at this point in time, the majority of Jews are not even Torah observant. So we definitely need to go back to the foundation of our faith and follow what is written in the 5 books of Moses.
Yeah, like I understand that that's where you consider authoritative, and for instance, like the Nach is not necessarily authoritative. You take it more of his history. Correct me if I'm wrong at any point. But my real question is, like, how do you know that the 5 books of Moses that you have right now, that you're reading right now, are the 5 books of Moses? Like, for instance, from the Christian perspective, there's a Septuagint, there's the Masoretic texts for how basically the proto-Masoretic text came from the Pharisees and eventually evolved to a point where it became the Masoretic text, where it was canonized and became, these are the 5 books of Moses, this is Tanakh. So my real question is like, if you're basing your 5 books of Moses off the Masoretic text that has like a history that goes back to the Pharisees, that have some form of rabbinic authority, is that where you're getting your own 5 books of Moses? And if so, like, aren't you kind of giving?
Well, yeah, you just mentioned 2 different forms of the 5 books of Moses. One that is rabbinic, which is the Masoretic text, and one which is not rabbinic, which is the Septuagint. And both of those texts are almost identical with minor changes. Same thing with the Samaritan.
Match the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, match the Dead Sea Scrolls from the Essenes, and also the Samaritan Torah and other scrolls that have survived the test of time, preserved among different traditions entirely, like for example Christianity and Judaism preserving the same scriptures even though they're mortal enemies, right? So the reality is that the authenticity of the Torah is quite well established over history. Do I know for a fact that every single word in the Torah is what Moses wrote? I don't know that for a fact. No one can know that for a fact. I believe it. I think there's a reliability to that belief that stems back throughout thousands of years of history, and it's been very well preserved by a bunch of different groups of people, all who were enemies with each other, by the way.
Yeah,
So
no,
that's good proof.
Israel, can we
totally.
just put a
Like,
pause for
I'm-
a second? I don't mean to interrupt the conversation. I did get a few super chats on my. People are saying that they weren't read.
Of
Have you been
course.
flagging the?
I'm so sorry. I don't know actually how to flag the
There's
super
like a way to
chats.
star them.
Man, I mean, like I know how to pin them. I don't know if I know how to star them.
Can we go back through and see if we can find any
Yeah.
missed super chats? Because there's like 3 or 4 of them that were
I'll try my best.
missed.
Yeah, I'll keep going, but you can keep talking, David.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I would allow you guys to continue doing what you need to do. I don't want any super chats to go unread. So if I'm distracting
Yeah.
in any way.
There should be on your end a button, by the way, like a star button where you can favorite them for later, and it puts them in like a favorited chats.
Yeah, I don't see that option, unfortunately. But okay, we'll
If
deal
you
with
go back
that.
far enough, can you see them?
Yeah, I'm gonna go look for them.
I'll read this one here. Pope of Oneness says, "Our Father is holy by nature. Our Father is Spirit by substance. Our Father is Holy Spirit by essence. Father, Holy Spirit was manifest in the flesh as Jesus Christ, Son of God." Yeah. Okay. What do you think of Nehemiah Gordon? That's I disagree with that.
Right.
I think it's Yahweh.
Yeah, you got Pope of Oneness.
And then is there any super chat that I missed?
I don't know. I mean, those are the more recent ones. It could be all the way
I can't
back.
go back further than that.
Yeah, it's not letting me go back further. That's the thing. All right. If
you were the one that sent
the,
I recognize the name Jakey on deck. Just write your question in the. I see somebody saying, "Why is Ash always so bitter?" Ash is a very happy person. Why is Ash bitter? Ash is not bitter. Ash is Jewish. Ash argues like a Jew.
yeah.
Jakey, if you just write your question again, I'll read it.
Yeah. obviously, you're all thanked, but I'll just pull up the next one that comes up. All right. So
He said,
David,
imagine crying about occupation, but not knowing the religion of the people who are occupying you. Okay. Not sure what you mean by that.
All right. So what else were you going to say?
Yeah, no. So like, I understand your perspective, but like my question is like, if you have to, like from the different kind of texts that we have from the different bases, like where do you derive your canon from? Like I'm assuming it's not from the Greek.
I'm saying they're all identical, dude. That's
They're
the
not,
whole
but they're
point.
not all identical.
What's the
are some
difference
differences between them? Of
What's
course
the
there are.
difference?
And please, like Ash, help me if I'm wrong. I really don't want to butcher any New Testament here, but isn't there a place where Paul quotes a psalm, and that psalm is written differently in the New Testament than it appears in the Masoretic?
I want to be very clear. I'm only
Psalm?
concerned.
Yeah, in the book of Hebrews, he quotes Psalm 40. Psalm 40.
Yeah, so I'm only concerned.
But he quotes the Greek manuscript, which is
Yeah.
accurate to the Greek
I'm
manuscript.
only
and we have evidence that
concerned
it's accurate to the Greek
with the Torah. I don't care if there's like variations of Psalms. I'm only concerned with the Torah, and the differences I found are a little bit differentiation in the Genesis timeline of the forefathers, which does impact how you calculate time. But still,
Your chat really doesn't like me, huh?
God. I don't know.
The bald one doesn't know what he's talking about.
Okay. Yeah, like yeah,
I shaved. Look, you can see the follicles are still there.
And also with regard to like in the end, like the Song of Moses, it says that the angels will sing along with the people. I mean, these are very minor differences, right? Even with the Samaritan, you got the Mount Gerizim thing. My point is that I'm gathering this from the historical record of the preservation of the Torah over multiple cultures and societies who were at war with each other. They could not deny the actual Torah and the legitimacy of that.
No, okay. I honestly I really just want to get your perspective on it. I wasn't trying to grill you or cross you in a way.
That's fine.
I haven't heard a Karaite explain to me that, or I know that you don't like to call yourself a Karaite, but for the sake of simplicity. I also have two more questions, if you guys don't mind. If not, I could run at any time. Kick me whenever you feel. One is for Israel. What is your guys' view on the afterlife? And do you have a strong view, or is it just ambiguous? How do you approach that subject?
I think it's absolutely unknown to us, and deliberately so, because God wants us to have faith in Him. We put our faith in Him in this this life and the next. We don't know what will happen in other places, but we believe that God is all powerful throughout all forms of existence in all realms. So I don't know. I couldn't tell you what happens after you die. No one actually knows unless they have some form of divine revelation. Some people claim to have that. I personally don't believe it. The Torah never talks about the afterlife. So I just trust God, and I try to live correctly with the time that I have.
Yeah, the reason why it's important for me, because first of all, like all major organized religions kind of address this point, and it's because of just the oldest questions about God. Kind of, like the first question you ask, it's like once you kind of acknowledge that there is a God out there, is like what happens after we die? Because if God is infinite, the world is infinite, and we are here for X amount of time, that means our existence is almost like a blip on, not even a blip on the radar in the grand scheme of things. So to have a organized worldview where you don't actually have some form of semblance of what happens after, it kind of, you could feel lost while you're here. So
well, no, because it's not so much about what happens after you die. It's about what you do right now. That's the Torah's call to the individual. Even the name of God, Yahweh, means God of the present moment. So we're talking about a God who you can encounter in the here and now. You don't have to die in order to meet God. You can meet God right now, and you can live correctly right now. And if your goodness in this life continues, then it spans eternity. And so if God decides to keep you alive spiritually after you die, then the good that you do in this world, you better believe, is going to impact elsewhere. But the particulars of it is what we don't know. And if we have real faith, then we believe that God will do us right no matter what happens.
I guess I could ask more questions, but I think I'll stop there.
Yeah, we can hear what Ash thinks about the afterlife.
About the afterlife?
Mhm.
I wasn't paying attention. Sorry, I thought that was a Karaite only string of questioning. What was the question?
What do you think about the afterlife?
What do I think about the afterlife?
Mhm.
I think that if you are right with God, you will be in heaven, and depending on how you call it, theosis, beatific vision, you will have some kind of participation there with God, and we don't know exactly what that looks like or feels like.
Yeah, I'll leave it. I'll leave it there. I'll give it some time for other people to also come up and speak to you guys. But I appreciate your guys' time, and I hope you guys have a lovely night.
That's right. In the Filth says it right. We all become orbs. That's what happens.
I'll take it.
All right. God
Thank
bless.
you guys. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
You see people, by the way, Yehuda Yisrael is still complaining in the other chat now, because that's where he found all the people that dislike me in Israel's chat. But what happened, again, several times he came up on my stream, said he has a very short window, ranted, didn't listen to the full answers, and left. And then doesn't like this time that I called him up, asked him a question. He disagreed with all of Judaism through all of history. And then, like, why am I having that conversation then? You don't believe in Judaism. Why would I have that conversation with you?
Yeah, you got to
Yehuda, why don't you put in the chat, do you know a rabbi who does Brit Milah, who's an Orthodox rabbi, who does not do Mitzitza, even with a tube? Can you say yes or no to that? Do you know one that doesn't?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that from a medical perspective, modernly, it's not at all necessary. Like we had a Jewish urologist do the circumcision for my son, and he didn't do any form of mitzitza because it's not at all necessary. It's like the blood, you just wrap it a little bit and the blood seeps into the bandage. So it's completely false. I mean, they're surprise, the rabbis.
So you admit that they use the tube. Oh, so now it's fine. Oh, he says he doesn't condone it. He doesn't condone it. Okay, but he condones it with the tube. So you condone, let's clarify this. Yehuda, in the chat, you condone that at the circumcision of a child, because a rabbi in the 2nd century said it, or supposedly the 2nd century, says it's a health concern, that all of the Jewish people are bound to suck the blood from the circumcision wound through a glass tube.
Yeah, even though it's not medically true that you need to do that.
But you think that all Jewish people are bound to that?
Yeah, but I guess his argument would be that it doesn't have to be with the mouth.
You don't have a problem with somebody using the tube. So you're totally fine with a law that's not even in the Torah, mandatory to suck the blood from the circumcision with a tube. That's what you're saying. Bring him up again if he wants to come up.
All right, he's not here yet. We can bring up Jackie in the meantime. Jackie. Jackie.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Welcome.
I don't want to take up too much time. I put in there. I was basically trying to get at the point when people say, does God have feminine attributes or masculine? I was just trying to say that prior to creation, we didn't have these traits assigned to genders until they were created. We all have, like, men also have feminine traits, but they're not as dominant because of the roles they were given. So I hope that you guys could understand what I was saying, that when people say, oh, God is feminine or masculine, these are terms that we understand and we comprehend, but prior to creation, that's not how I guess it's not meant to look at it as like a bad thing, or like, oh, God is feminine, like he's weak. No, it was different. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
from a Kabbalistic perspective.
I mean, yeah, but we all agree that we're not assigning any form of genitalia to God or like specific attributes. But the point is that if God is speaking in the masculine throughout the Torah, there's something about the nature of God, especially in the way that we relate to him, is that we relate to him through the masculine. Yet at the same time, God creates man and woman in his image, and the woman is a primarily feminine being. Although, yes, you're right, both men and women possess the opposite traits. The man is a masculine being, the woman is a feminine being, and they are to come together. So this is actually the point that I was just making, which is that if we're going to dig into all the different attributes of God, I think we can bring up an infinite amount. And so I would just stick with the number one.
But so you're saying that God in the Old Testament is masculine, which I would agree, but he also has what we categorize as feminine traits, as in compassion, nurturing, affection. So you see those. Does that
Why
make
are
sense?
compassioning, nurturing feminine traits?
Well, but when it comes to like offspring, you see it more in women. That I
Okay,
hate to
but why
break.
is that a feminine trait? Because it's more present in women.
Yes, just like
What if
someone
it's
with.
just a trait and God gives that more to women?
That's what I'm basically
Why
trying
does
to
that make
say.
it feminine? But that doesn't make its inherent category more feminine.
Well, you could say the opposite for what you categorize as masculine. No. What makes
Yes.
it masculine, except for the fact that you categorize it as masculine? That's what I'm
Well,
trying to
what
get
would you
at.
categorize as masculine?
Authoritative, aggressive, leading.
You've never met any women that are more aggressive than the man standing next to them?
Lord have mercy. Yes, my people are full of them. But I'm basically just trying to say that I don't think what we
I don't see
assign.
compassion as a feminine trait.
Yeah, maybe nurture, but the point is, yeah, we all acknowledge that God has feminine traits. The point is that, because again, how could females be created in the image of God if there isn't a divine feminine? However, God explicitly wants us to interact with him in the masculine. That's evident in scripture. Not to be like, oh, Mother God, please help me with your nurture, but no, Father God. God is referred to as a father. That's purposeful. God wants us to interact with him.
Right. I would just say that just because genitalia and chromosomes are biological created things, they're not categories of being image of God in that sense.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm trying to say, is that he also has those. We got it from him. God gave women, we don't reflect him, or he doesn't. How do I say it? Humans don't reflect necessarily God in the sense that he's created after us. We're created after him. So for a woman to be nurturing, she would have to have received it from God. So God already possesses these, but he is, of course, like more masculine in the sense that we understand it.
Mm-hmm. And in the sense where we're supposed to interact with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate you. We got more callers.
All right. God bless.
Have a great night. Yeah, we got Mr. Yehuda up here. All right.
Yehuda.
So now I gotta be clear. I do have 15 minutes now. I said earlier, so that who's keeping track of time? I said 40 minutes. When it was 40 minutes
right,
ago,
that's
now
fine.
it's 15 minutes.
Just get your point out.
I have like 9 minutes of cross-examine.
We're still playing by that, or are we gonna do a good faith discussion where we go back and forth, or just
can I just clarify something that you said earlier? So you do believe that it is totally fine to suck the blood from the circumcision wound with a glass tube? That this is not only okay,
with the glass
but
tube,
binding.
it's not a problem. I don't have an issue with it.
So with the glass tube is fine, and it's binding on Jewish people.
So let me give my official position on what I believe about Rabbinic Judaism. I believe Rabbinic Judaism.
I'm not asking for I'm asking you to clarify your stance on that particular issue.
I told you I don't have a problem with it. You asked me morally. I think that was your
think it's yes or no? Is it obligatory upon Jewish men?
And the Talmud says it is.
This is more of an opinion sort of thing.
The Talmud says you're obligated to do mitzvah.
That's fine.
It's part of the rules of a
are you asking me my personal opinion, or are you asking?
Are you not
like,
Talmudic?
What are you asking?
So that's what I'm asking. Is your personal opinion in conflict with the consensus of Judaism?
So by Talmudic, do you believe that I have to? When you say Talmudic,
no, I'm not just saying the
that
Talmud.
is meaning I must believe every single. Well, you're both saying different things.
Cite a rabbi? Can you cite a rabbi who is a Rishon or Acharon who holds the view that the mitzvah is not mandatory?
I don't really care either way. Like, that's not really my point.
Well, you're coming here promoting Judaism over Christianity, but you don't believe in Judaism. So why are you doing
over
that?
Christianity, but you're claiming that every single statement in the Talmud is binding.
Hold on.
Or do you believe every single statement in the Talmud is binding?
So let's be clear.
Why aren't you answering that question though? Do you believe every single thing that a rabbi said in the Talmud is binding?
It's my time. It's my time.
Is it though? You kind of are.
So we are being clear. You think that Judaism is only more valid than Christianity, even where you disagree with Judaism.
Well, obviously, as you know,
so you think it's more valid than Christianity, but not entirely true.
I didn't say that it's not entirely true. I'm saying
you disagree with one of its binding laws.
I didn't say that I disagreed with it. I'm saying that you're asking me.
You just said you disagree with it.
When did I say that I disagreed with it? I said that you asked me to find a Rishon that You
Can
really
you
put
cite a
that word in
modern
my
rabbi
mouth?
even that? Can you cite a modern
I
rabbi
really
who says that it's
appreciate the
okay?
way you're putting words in my mouth. I never said that I could or couldn't. So I appreciate the trap you're trying to set, but unfortunately for you, I'm not.
Forget the trap I'm
falling
trying to
for
set. Can you name me a rabbi that says it's okay to do a brit milah without mitzitza?
Like I said, I don't care. That's not why I'm not having a
So what
discussion.
is-
I'm
You
here
don't
to
care
have
about
that.
the laws of Judaism. That's my point. You don't actually
No,
care
but
about Judaism. You
you're
only
claiming
care
that every
about
single
debunking
thing in the
Christianity.
Talmud, every
Bro,
single
you
thing in the
said it in
Talmud
one
is
of your
binding.
videos.
You're
You said it in one of your
misrepresenting what
videos.
Judaism is, and everybody who's watching this knows.
You
You're
said it in one of
arguing.
your videos. You don't care about the truth. You only care about winning the chess game with Christians. That's what your words were.
That's not. You're taking me out of context again and putting words in my mouth. Which
Those
of
were your
course,
words,
is
were they
your-
not?
I didn't say that I don't care about truth. You're putting that.
And people are
word
going
in my
back in the
mouth.
stream and saying that you actually did say you disagree with it.
Are you not? One
That I
second. Are
disagree
you
with
not?
what?
With mitzitza.
I said you asked me if I disagree with
Your
the
personal
idea
opinion
of
is you don't think you should do it, right?
mitzitza b'peh. I'm not.
No,
That's
with
my
a glass
personal
tube.
opinion.
I'm talking about generally fulfilling it with a glass tube. You think it ought not to be done, right?
I didn't say that. I said that I don't care. I
Well, I
said
asked
that
you
it's
that,
not
and
something that.
okay. Can you answer yes or no? Do you think that it is a binding law upon the Jewish people or not?
Once again, I don't care. That's not what I'm here to have a discussion about.
Right,
Like,
so
if
you
you
don't
want to
care about the
ask
laws
me
of
about-
Judaism. So why are you defending Judaism when you don't care
That is a
about the
law
laws of
in the
Judaism?
Shulchan Aruch. By the way, even if we don't say that every statement in the Talmud is binding, the codified laws from the Talmud by Maimonides and Shulchan Aruch are binding according to Orthodox Judaism. So if you claim to be an Orthodox Jew, you're obligated to do mitzitza in a circumcision. So that would be the correct
So I
answer.
said
if you're
that I
Orthodox.
am fine with doing it with the
Fine
tube.
with
So
it or
I was very
obligated?
clear with that. Obviously, if I have a child and the moil comes and they say they're going to do mitzitza, I will say, don't do mitzitza b'peh, do the other. I would just follow whatever the
So you would
moil
let
does.
you would tell them all that it's totally fine to suck the blood from your child's genitals with a straw,
Not with their mouth. I mean,
through a straw. So you're totally fine that the rabbi will come, circumcise your son, and suck the blood from your son's genitals with a glass tube.
They're not putting their mouth on anything, so I
Who
don't have an issue with
cares?
that.
Who cares if they're putting their mouth on it or not? That's
So
the point.
where
Is
does
it's
now that you
disgusting
had your fun,
regardless.
Ash, now that you had your
It's
fun, Ash,
disgusting regardless.
now that you had your fun, Ash, are we
That's
allowed
only
to
been
have a
6
discussion?
minutes. Can I ask another question? Do you believe that Rabbi Gamliel was correct in saying that if you want to tell if a woman is a virgin or not, you should sit her on a wine barrel and smell her breath, and if you can smell the wine, she's not a virgin?
Once again, I don't care. I'm not here to have a conversation about.
So you're coming
you
here to defend Judaism, but you don't
misrepresenting
care
Judaism.
about what any of the rabbis say. You don't care about what any of their opinions are. You don't care what the binding laws of Judaism are. What do you care about?
Well, you're misrepresenting Judaism as anybody with a
In what
rudimentary
way am I
understanding.
misrepresenting Judaism?
Because you know that every single rabbi's opinion isn't binding necessarily on
I
what
didn't
Jews
say that
have
was
to
binding.
do.
I just said if that was sensible for Rabbi Gamliel to say that.
Well, first of all, every single rabbi's opinion is revered as the word of the living
Yeah.
God. Okay, let's
Exactly.
put it that way.
Every opinion of every rabbi
Cool.
is considered
But that
word of the
obviously
living
doesn't
God,
mean that
and
I
you will
have
be
to
able to
believe
tell.
every single. That's the thing, is that you're using this all or nothing misrepresentation of Judaism, and you know what you're doing. That's not how
I'm not giving any misrepresentation. This is
You
not
are.
misrepresentation. This is Jewish binding law. You just disagree with it. That was my point
So
before.
if I go to
you
John
don't believe
14,
in Judaism.
if I go to
You're a
John
liar.
14:28 and it says the Father is greater than I,
Hold on a
and Jesus
second.
made that statement, right?
Now you
Did
want to
just
get out of
shush
it.
me?
Now
Did you just
now you're
shush
getting,
me? Did you just
now you're
shush
getting
me?
away from it. Now you're getting away from it. You don't want the
the
conversation
tables
to go
have
on.
turned.
I still have 3 minutes. I still have 3 minutes.
This is going to make an awesome clip. Thank you so much. I'll let these 3
Did you take
minutes
your
ride,
pills
man.
tonight?
You just shushed me.
'Cause you
You know
sound
what that
mad.
means. You know what that means, Ash. You
It
shushed
means you're getting
me.
off
That is
topic during my time.
because last time we were on live stream, when
I can
I
shush you on my
literally was
stream. You
trying to
can't shush
say,
me
"Hey,
on my stream.
Ash," I was
Do you not know how
saying,
that works?
"Show me anywhere," and you kicked
Okay.
me off the screen. You threatened to kick me off
Can I
the
ask
screen
you?
last time.
So can I ask you? Do you think that Israel and I should be extrajudiciously murdered by Jews for being apostates?
Obviously, you know we don't have the same headroom today, so none of the
No,
things that
I
you're
didn't
asking
say.
about.
I didn't say in a Jewish court of law. I said extrajudiciously. Outside of
Maimonides
court
says
of law.
that. Drop him in
Maimonides says that.
in a well.
Can you
And-
name an
and he is not
instance of that ever happening in history?
I didn't ask what instance of there was. I asked if
So
that's
then why
something
are
you
you
believe
asking
should be
these
done.
these pedantic
Because
questions
that's
that don't
binding
have any
Jewish law as well.
application
There's
to
not
today?
one. There's
I'm
not
sure
Oh, you
one
don't have any
religion that
instance
disagrees
of this
with it.
happening ever?
I'm asking you a question about theology of your religion. Maimonides, who is a Rishon, says that apostates should be killed outside of the court if you can't do it within the court.
Yeah, I mean,
There is no Rishon that
Karaites
disagrees
were-
with him. Hold on a
Karaites
second,
were
Israel.
beaten in the street.
Israel, hold on a second. There is no Rishon that disagrees with that ruling.
So show
Is
me
that
an
a binding
example
ruling
of
or not?
somebody actually doing that in history.
I didn't
in
ask
the
you if there's
modern
an
day.
example.
We're talking about the
I
law.
asked you if that's binding law in Judaism.
Obviously, it's not something that people do today, so
But it's
hard
binding
for.
law.
You're asking something that's impossible to demonstrate in real time, and then you're asking.
I didn't
me to
ask you if it's
defend
impossible
something.
to demonstrate an example. I asked you if that's binding Jewish law.
Once again, my official position is that
I don't care
Rabbinic
for your
Judaism makes
official
more
position. You're
sense
not in
according to
charge
the
of
Tanakh.
Judaism. I
Right.
don't care for your
This is my
personal
opinion, though. So you're basically creating a straw
Right. So
man
you've
argument for me
admitted
to
now
defend.
3 times. So you've now admitted 3 times that you don't care what the rulings of Judaism are. You only care about debunking Christianity. You've said that 3 times now. You've
No, I
demonstrated
care
it 3
about the
times now.
rulings to an extent that they make sense in the practical world
You-
today.
you
But you're
didn't answer
asking
the
me things
question.
that don't happen
Is
today.
the opinion of Maimonides, without a further disagreement by any other Rishon, is it a binding Jewish law or not?
Once again, you're using Maimonides in a way, and you're abusing the way that his psak is used.
I'm not
in the
abusing
present
anything.
day.
He says it explicitly.
So show me an
He
example
says,
today
citing
of
the
people
Talmud,
doing that. Can you
I
show
didn't
me
say that
Jews
people
today
do
going
it.
around?
I said it's
Exactly. So
binding
then,
Jewish law.
so clearly you're taking it out of context because it's
And
not
guess what?
applied today.
You just proved my point that Jews today don't actually follow Jewish law.
No, you're taking
They follow what's
rabbis out of
convenient.
context and saying, once
No,
again,
it's not out of context.
you're
It's not out
using
of
this
context.
all or
It's
nothing.
It's Hilchos Malachim.
Anybody,
It's Hilchos Malachim. It's
it's
about
out
the
of
laws of
context in the
apostates.
greater scope. I know what
It's
it
not
says.
out of context.
It's out of context in the greater scope of how Judaism is practiced. You're saying the
Okay.
Rambam says this, so you have to do everything the Rambam says.
The
You know
Rambam is
that's
a
not how
Rishon,
Judaism
and
works.
there's no contradictory opinion
Cool.
with this
Rashi was a
Rishon.
Rishon, and they disagreed about a lot of things. Do I have
Right,
to do
where
everything
there's
Rashi does?
exactly, you don't
everything
know how
Rambam
Judaism
does?
works. Where there's a disagreement between Rishonim, later rabbis can go between those opinions and further elaborate on the law. But when there's a Rishon
Cool.
that has a
So
binding opinion and no other Rishon arguing with him, no Acharon disagreeing with him, that is binding Jewish law.
So then
The
why
fact of the
don't
matter
you see
is,
examples of that?
because Jews
That's
don't
your
keep
problem,
Jewish
is that
law.
you're
That's my
claiming this,
point.
but you don't have any examples of it.
Thankfully, Jews are not like Muslims and don't actually do these things. That's my point.
Sorry,
Jews
I
don't
think my
actually do
connection got
these.
bad. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I said thankfully Jews are
Sorry,
not
okay.
like Muslims and Jews
Hello.
don't do these things. Did you hear me?
Yeah, sorry.
I'll give you a second there.
Yeah. Also, we have no idea what Jews have actually been doing. I mean, the whole idea is do it in private. So if you did that
The
in
fact is you're
private,
supposed to do it privately.
Yeah.
First of all, if you're going to argue that Jews have never physically assaulted somebody for being an apostate, that's just not true.
Of course not.
As Israel was citing, they did that to a lot of people. But regardless, the point that I'm making is Jews don't actually follow Jewish law. They follow the most convenient things of Jewish law.
Mm-hmm.
Let's give him a minute to come back.
Yeah, I think his. But anyway, someone's
Somebody in
saying
my chat says Yehuda sounds like a prepubescent boy. That's mean. I think he's in his 30s or something like that. Maybe he's 40. I don't know.
From Moses to Moses, none came up like Moses. That's what they say about Maimonides, right? He is like Moses. I mean, this is just some devastating stuff because ultimately it's a complete denial of the gap between rabbis' opinions and the word of God. I mean, the rabbis say a non-Jew who keeps Shabbat is deserving of death. Like, they've never done that? Like, how do you know what they would do if they had actual authority? The rabbis never had legal authority. But as you said, Maimonides was advocating for that in extrajudicially. Even when Jews don't have power, they're supposed to do these things. He said, like, you should just drop the ladder and be like, hey, I have to go pick up my kid. And just leave the guy there to die. Right. Yeah, that certainly.
Maybe the lay Malin.
Oy vey. All right. Well, I think he's gone. He is gone.
Yeah, somebody in the chat is saying people from all religions have done wrong things. I'd actually argue that Jews have done less of those wrong things, by the way, as a whole. I'll say that again. Jews as a people have done less of those things Not saying they wouldn't given the power to do so. I'm just saying that they've done less of those things throughout the last 1,000 years.
Right.
That's my point, though. They don't follow Torah law. They only follow it up until the point that it would cause financial, monetary, and other issues or get them in trouble. The fact of the matter is, that's my point. The fact that Jews don't go around killing apostates is proof that they don't follow the rulings of somebody like Maimonides. Because it's inconvenient. They'd get in trouble. They'd go to jail.
Yeah, and here's the thing, is that believing that an apostate is deserving of death is a very intense belief. Like, even if you just believe that, you're believing that someone is deserving of death. Like, you have to stand by that belief, even if you don't carry it out. It still means that you believe that ideally that's what should be happening. So you don't.
But the fact is, as you saw, like 3 times he came up and different things. He cannot agree. He refuses to agree with what the consensus of Judaism is, because it will make him look bad personally.
Right.
And so he's denying binding laws in Judaism because he doesn't actually care about Judaism. He cares culturally about Judaism and fitting in and being part of his community, but he doesn't actually care theologically. He does not believe Judaism is true. He just hates Christianity. Okay? For whatever personal circumstances, I don't need to speculate or go into that, but for whatever reason, he hates Christianity specifically. Now, I come from an Orthodox Jewish background. I don't hate Orthodox Jews. I don't actually think Jews are stupid. I think people are brought up with the things that they're brought up with. They believe certain presuppositions. That's very common. Generally speaking, that's what happens. Okay?
Absolutely.
I don't think Jews are bad for practicing Judaism. I don't think they're evil for practicing Judaism. I don't even think that, like, unless you have like these discussions on a deep level and talk somebody into the realizations of these flaws, right? You can't even say that they're acting in bad faith or anything like that. There's a lot of very pious people who are Orthodox Jews. I've had people like that in my life. Still have people like that in my life who are very, very decent people. Would that more Christians would act like some of these rabbis that I'm still in touch with. Okay. Very good people. Okay. That's not the point here. The point is it's theologically false.
Yeah. And if you're going to profess a theology, you have to be accountable to it. Let's bring up RJ. How are you,
Hey,
RJ?
RJ.
How's it going?
Oh, did he leave?
Are
RJ
you
is
there?
a regular viewer on my channel, I think.
I know. He called in my last show.
It's the same RJ.
Pretty sure. All right, RJ, are you there? I don't think he's there. Okay. Let's bring up Tamara. Hello, Tamara.
Hey guys, what's up?
Hello.
Yep.
So I would define myself as an Orthodox Jew. And though I don't know if this is going to meet like the kind of Orthodox Jew that you guys are looking for, but essentially
anyone who's traditional or believes in Rabbinic Judaism, you don't have to particularly be Orthodox specifically.
Yeah. So I do believe in Rabbinic Judaism. In that, like, there's clearly bits of the 5 books of Moses that you can't understand without some kind of oral explanation to, elaborate on what's, basic examples being like, the phylacteries, the tefillin, exactly defining what those are supposed to be.
Why couldn't you know what tefillin are supposed to be without oral Torah?
Because I don't find enough details in the text to tell me what that's supposed to look like.
Why do you think it has to be leather boxes tied to your arm? It doesn't say that in the text either.
No, you're quite right. That's why I think that there was an oral tradition that was passed down simultaneously with that. So the idea being...
Do you ever find it odd that something that was worn by every single Jewish man since Sinai, you see no archaeological evidence of it existing before the time that the Pharisees pop up in history?
I mean, we've seen scrolls in Qumran, I believe.
2nd century BC. That's about the times the Pharisees pop up in history.
Yeah, there was also like, I believe some of them were...
The phylacteries of the Qumran caves do not look like modern rabbinic phylacteries.
So why would you think that the phylacteries today are kosher if they don't look like the ones from the 2nd century BC?
No, that's right. I'm just going on probabilities, right? Like, none of this is 100% for sure.
Probability is that Pharisees reading the Torah came up with a lot of things on how to fulfill specific verses because they versify the Torah. they go this and this and this thing. This has to be fulfilled this and this way. So we need to find a way to do that. It's very likely that tefillin is a Pharisee innovation.
Yeah. To put it this way, how would you know the details that we made up if we didn't tell them to you? That's usually what you're hearing from the Pharisees, right? They're like,
the general rule of the Talmud is create a problem and then come up with a way to solve it.
Yes, we create a false interpretation and then create a loophole around our false interpretation. That's the majority of Rabbinic Judaism. It's all completely arbitrary. And no, like if the text does not specify black leather boxes with certain scrolls, then that's not what it means to fulfill it. There are people that interpret it metaphorically to have God's words bound on your actions and your visions. There are Even if you wanted to go about and try to construct a literal representation of that commandment, it wouldn't have to look like the rabbinic tefillin. Remember, according to rabbinic tefillin, if I write the passages of the Torah on regular paper with a pen and put it in a red box, I did not fulfill the commandment, because it has to be black boxes shaped a certain way, with certain writings, with certain compartments, with certain script, with certain parchment, with all these things. None of that is from the Torah. That's all completely rabbinic, and they have filled books with all the details that they made up, telling you that this is somehow from Moses at Sinai. That's not probable at all.
I would say that if you were just trying to tell me with this one particular thing, yeah, sure, of course. I mean, like with any of the...
On to the next thing. What's the next thing we wouldn't know?
No, I mean, we can, of course, we can go through them all one by one, right? So then there's also, I'm sure, you would say something very similar about, mezuzah and ritual slaughter and like all that kind of stuff. None of these details.
Does your mezuzah have to be straight or can it be tilted? There's an argument about that.
Exactly. Yeah, no, no, exactly. I know.
The right side.
I know that there are. Exactly. There are many opinions, of course, and this idea that Shivim Panim LaTorah, all of them must be correct. That's factually speaking. If I'm looking at this logically, and I believe there was an oral tradition that explained, the precise details of all of these commandments, right? So the idea being that God did in fact tell Moses, well, hey, this is tefillin. It's either supposed to be taken literally in this way, or it's not. It's supposed to be a sign, through your actions on your heart, whatever you want to interpret that as. Maybe God said, I leave it up to everyone.
Also tie wisdom to their fingers.
Yeah, sure, exactly. This is what I mean. So what I mean is objectively something.
Why is that one allegorical?
Because, well, if I were being intellectually honest, it's because the tradition that I subscribe to, as a whole,
right.
On balance.
The rabbinic tradition is true. Why do you do that?
No, I don't presuppose that it's true. I presuppose that I don't have the information just
because the tradition I believe in says this.
Yeah.
Therefore, that's what I do. So
yeah, I'll tell you how I got there.
Tradition is correct.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you how I got there. Obviously, like I explained before, obviously there are missing details in the 5 books. I'm just looking at who.
You haven't pointed one out yet, though. You just keep saying that there are.
Right. So there is. Well, you admitted yourself. There's no exact description of tefillin, mezuzah, shechita.
Because I don't believe that tefillin are prescribed in the 5 books of Moses.
Yeah, shechita is not either described in the 5 books of Moses.
Well, exactly. The slaughter in the way that God has commanded you.
Right.
What way might that be?
But so here's the thing: you're not only are you presupposing rabbinic conclusions, you're presupposing rabbinic arguments. When you look at the context of that, it does not say slaughter as I commanded you. It says it's an entire chapter teaching us that we are allowed to slaughter to begin with, because in Leviticus 17. Slaughter outside of the tabernacle was prohibited. In Deuteronomy 12, we're now being permitted to eat whenever our soul desires. And God is saying, as I commanded you, that you're allowed to eat, right? Like we didn't even know that we were allowed to eat. So it's a commandment that's referring to the Torah itself. This idea that the Torah is referring to an external commandment, it really is obscene. Like the Torah is a self-fulfilling book. It always refers back to itself. When it says slaughter as I commanded you, it's not referring to some secret special method of slaughter of the rabbis.
Referring to earlier in the chapter.
It's referring to 6 verses earlier in the chapter where God introduces the concept that you're allowed to slaughter at all outside of the tabernacle.
So that's correct. Though you're assuming that it's singularly only referring to this. I'm taking the position that it could be referring to both.
That's more obvious. Like when the Torah
says, rather than take it for referring back to itself, you think that there's a secret special code that was given in addition.
By the way, when the Torah itself...
Potentially, no, I'm just open to the idea.
When the Torah itself says, follow what is written in this book, do not add or subtract to what is written in this book of the Torah. Okay? So nowhere in the entire Tanakh are we told to follow an oral tradition. Okay? We're actually told to follow the written word of the Torah of Moses. And Moses completed it in writing at the end of Deuteronomy. So what makes you think that it's reasonable or rational to assume that what the rabbis are telling you is true when they clearly have a vested interest in power and say things that are completely absurd and ridiculous all the time?
Well, because I would find it strange to, well, two things. One, I would find it strange to write, or near on impossible to write a comprehensive system of law that covers every single detail, every aspect of every religious injunction, prohibition, whatever it may be. That would probably be, that would be far too, you know, so you have like, obviously, you know, the idea of Christian, I believe it's called virtue ethics, you know, where you can, you know, through logic and reason, obviously, you know, God gives you these broad sweeping commandments, right? And then you can extrapolate from that using reason that God endowed you with, you know, what the corollaries of that may be, right? And so I think that taking that approach also into the ritual details is what Rabbinic Judaism provides me with the framework.
It's quite the opposite. What you just described is that God gives us the sweeping principles, and we can use our God-given reason and understanding of reality to understand the conceptual commandments, the moral commandments, and the ritual commandments. And now you're saying, but I also need rabbis to tell me how to tie my shoes, how to wash my hands, how to cut my nails, what blessing to say before I eat, in middle of I eat, after I eat, how to remove the thing from the table, put it back on the table, how to cut the bread, to cut off the corner, to wash before, to wash after. All of that is virtue ethics. All of that is like intuitive approach, somehow scripturally based. It completely flies in the face of everything logical, reasonable, and virtuous. It's not a virtuous way of living. It's actually an obsessive, neurotic way of living, and it's not in alignment with the text. The text gives us the principles to follow, and if you follow that to the best of your ability while sticking to the letter of the law, that's all you need to do. All of these details that the rabbis provide, which I suggest, if you really think it's all in good faith, go read some of their books and see just how mad they are and the details that they go into, right? So this is not about a honest attempt to explain how to follow the Torah. This is about an attempt to top-down control people from the minute they wake up till the moment they go to sleep. What you say, how you walk, you have to cut. You can't walk 4 feet with your head uncovered. You can't walk 4 feet with your back straight. Like, these are actual laws of the rabbis. You're telling me this is the Torah? You're telling me this is good faith? This is just a man-made swath of garbage, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I think this is where I might deviate from some of the more traditional, you know, some of the more traditional characters you have on here. So the way I would start off with is very similar to almost all Orthodox Jews or Rabbinic Jews, is that, you know, you have I'm sure you must be familiar with the 13 rules of hermeneutics from Rabbi Ishmael. So the idea being that was
rabbinic hearsay.
Potentially, but this is where I'm coming from the sense of
I would grant that there are hermeneutic principles that people prior to the Mishnah believed in.
Definitely not. You know what they say? They say if it says this here and this there, you can now connect it. So it says that the Israelites came to the desert on this day, and it also says this month. Therefore, it was the first of the month because it says this. That's hermeneutics. That sounds like retardation. If I say this here and this there, there's now a connection. This is like and. You know, like this is not sophisticated at all. Like, I just hate to break it to you. Like, I've been in depth studying this stuff. It's not sophisticated. It's a distortion of like basic human thought.
Yeah. So where I was going to take this was basically that, you know, obviously just to give you the overall chain of how I see things, right? So, you know, unclear details where we can agree, right? There would be some kind of, you would call it, you know, Christian virtue ethics, perhaps. I would say, obviously coming from an Orthodox standpoint, you know, these rules of hermeneutics, perhaps not Rabbi Ishmael's rules of hermeneutics, but some type of, you know, you have to be able to follow rules, interpretive rules, in order to come to these details somehow. The question is just, have these rabbis who have come to all of these details, have they, A, employed those rules correctly? Do they have the correct rules? And then obviously, you know, which is how you can have rabbis coming up with, you know, all different and contradictory opinions, right? And so, like, I don't believe that you can tell me, well, you know, God told Moses on Mount Sinai to tie his left shoe before his right. Of course not. No. And similarly, you know, there are plenty of things I've heard your call with the last gentleman about, you know, Rambam extrajudicial killings. You know, there are plenty of things in the Rambam that are quite clearly not drawn from Judaism, but are drawn from his Islamic unfortunate circumstances that he was stuck living in. Right. And
nice
so, like,
concession, thank you.
No, I mean, no, it's just quite obviously true. Things that are not based in current medical knowledge, scientific knowledge, whatever it may be. There are plenty of these things that you can point to. I would simply say that's not the word of God. Like, if you have medical evidence, scientific evidence, I'm interested in the truth. Insofar as a particular rabbi can provide me with a logical explanation for a commandment with, logical corollaries, I'm fine with that, and that's what I'm happy to follow.
Our arguments is that their explanations are not logical. You carry a key in your pocket from your front door to the street, you're working. You push your baby in the stroller to your neighbor's house, you're working. But if you put up a fishing line around your neighborhood, now you're not working. Okay? You're telling me this makes sense? It doesn't.
Well, I would say that, from the context of the word malacha itself being used, right, as being used particularly in connection with the tabernacle. So God saying, you must.
By the way, I just say one thing. So if I might, the problem with Judaism is that internally it's self-cannibalizing and self-contradictory. So, for example, if you have somebody who is a convert to Judaism, let's say they do the whole rabbinic process, okay, they're a valid convert into Judaism, okay, they've accepted the whole oral Torah, okay. Now, let's say this person is spent their last 10 years as an Orthodox Jew. The only thing they know how to do is hashgacha. Like, this is how they make their living. They really have not succeeded at much else in life. This is how they make their living. This is how they support their family. Okay. And for anyone who's watching, hashgacha is like kosher supervision. Okay. Now, said person, okay, decides one day that rabbinic law doesn't fully make sense to them. Okay. They don't think that eating chicken and milk is a problem. They don't even think that, let's say, well, let's not go to things that could be interpretations on a biblical, right? So let's just stick to the Rabbanan for sure. They don't think that eating chicken and milk is a problem. Okay. And they do that in the open, not in the restaurants or the places that they're doing hashgacha for, but they do it very publicly. Let's say they go, yeah, it doesn't really make sense to me. The rabbis, when they first discovered electricity, they thought it was fire in the wires. And so that's the malacha. But then afterwards, because they already banned it, they had to come up with another reason. So it was bona, it's building, because it completed a circuit. So they had to shift their mindset. So the guy goes, yeah, that doesn't really make sense to me. I think that using my phone on the Sabbath is fine. It's a rabbinic prohibition anyways. Okay. And so now he's not Shomer Shabbos and he's not Shomer Kashrus from a Jewish perspective. So he gets booted out of his hashgacha job and ostracized from the community. Yeah. Nobody eats at his house anymore. His kids aren't allowed to play together with other people's kids, right? Do you think that makes sense?
I think it makes sense for those people in the same way that I, for example, don't accept the social healthiness of like gay marriage, for example. So like, if my cousin, married a dude, I would politely decline to bring my kids around that.
How do we always compare gay marriage to eating chicken and cheese? You understand, chicken and cheese is not even prohibited. Also, it's an extremely...
So the problem with your assertion, the problem that you just affirmed that this is okay to ostracize this person from the community, the problem with that is that you just affirmed that a rabbinic gezerah, not even a halacha l'Moshe Sinai, like not even like an interpretation of a biblical command, but an explicit rabbinic gezerah, you just affirmed that it supersedes the biblical ordinance to love the convert among you. So you just actually affirmed something that contradicts Judaism.
Well, no, I didn't. In the same,
and from a biblical sense.
Well, no, because in the same way that, for example, there's an injunction upon me to love my neighbor as myself. If I found my neighbor to be, like, for example, I wouldn't find it acceptable.
You missed my point. You took a rabbinic prohibition and said that violating that rabbinic prohibition is enough to justify violating the biblical injunction of loving the convert.
No, I didn't, because if I may just explain, I'd like to elaborate, because it was a very narrow question. If I may elaborate,
that it was a trap.
No, it's not a trap. If you would, if you just let me elaborate for a second,
it's an unbeatable trap. I mean, I'm not saying like this is not you being stupid. This is just there's no way out of it. Rabbinic Judaism violates its own ordinances as long as well as biblical ordinances.
Give me a shot to explain myself, and then you'll see if it's an unbeatable trap, right? Okay, so just very quickly, because I don't want to take too much of your time. Basically, the way I would see it is literally just from I would separate out children versus adults, right? So if you're asking me if I want my children growing up when young children need to be in a black and white world temporarily at very young stages, in the same way that I don't explain things to my 3-year-old in a particularly complicated way.
Cultural sensibilities are more important than the rabbinic and biblical ordinances? Because that's where I think you're going with this. You don't want your kids playing with people that will warp their mindset.
That is absolutely correct up until a certain age, yes. When children are physically unable.
Your personal desires trump not only a rabbinic ordinance, but also a biblical ordinance.
Well, no, because I don't think that the onus is just on me in the sense that a convert is free.
Right, the whole community is making this error. It's not just you, correct?
Well, no, in the sense that I would be very clear with my children that this person is not breaking Jewish law. There are two you're assuming that there's any kind of cruelty involved in this.
The fact that you're having a conversation with your children about whether or not a valid convert should or should not be ostracized for violating a rabbinic ordinance is already a problem. Do you realize that?
Well, no, in the sense that this would only apply. Well, perhaps you're mistaking the ages. What I'm talking about is like.
So because somebody violated a rabbinic ordinance, you're allowed to speak lashon hara about them?
No, what I mean to say is for very little children, you don't address it altogether. It's a decision that parents make.
Why would you be addressing that? They didn't violate a biblical ordinance. So you're violating the biblical ordinance of loving your neighbor and including them, the convert, sorry. You're violating that biblical ordinance because of your cultural sensibilities and rabbinic ordinances.
Yeah. Also, look at your priorities. The kind of environment you're trying to raise your children in. A black and white environment to the extent of like whether you can mix chicken and cheese. Like, what do you think you're going to
forget mixing them? Eating one like cheese 4 hours after your chicken.
you think you're going to raise your children in a monolith of like who in the world even follows these ridiculous things? I mean, there's so many issues with this on every level. But Ash's point is that the Torah says you must love the stranger among you, and you're saying, excuse me, you offend my
unless they violate my cultural sensibilities.
You offend my sensibilities of my interpretation upon interpretation of offense, and so I'm going to have to kindly tell you to get out of here, you know?
Well, like, the convert is just as beholden to the commandment of, things like loving your neighbor as yourself, which means also respecting, my personal choices in terms of my own religious sensibility.
Respect your choice.
Respecting somebody else's rabbinic absurdities is not what the Torah meant when it says love your neighbor. You know that's not true, and you're just throwing that out.
So you mean to say that
would be on you to love people like yourself, even though they have the audacity to eat chicken and milk together?
Of course, though, you couldn't possibly expect me to, if we don't choose to live our lives that way, to tell my children that they should be.
Other people
I can, because the Torah prescribed that. So for example, if somebody's not a convert, right? If they are, some dude in the community, and you don't particularly think that they speak very respectfully, and you don't want them around, like, that's one thing. If somebody is being a convert is being ostracized for violating a rabbinic injunction, that means you place the rabbinic injunction above the biblical ordinance.
Well, you're assuming that what that means is that, and perhaps some people would act this way. In which case I wouldn't find that acceptable. But I would define this as two very separate.
I'm assuming that. I've seen that in person. I used to work in Ashgacha. I've seen that multiple times. People getting booted out of their job because they, for whatever reason, somebody saw them like have a Starbucks coffee in their vehicle.
Yes, God forbid. God forbid,
they should drink Starbucks.
Do you really?
Of course, no, stone them to death, of course.
Do you really think you're going to be able to raise your kids in a world where they don't know that other people on planet Earth do different things than their strict ultra-Orthodox upbringing? Like, this is like a basic element of being able to coexist with people. We're not saying like coexist with murderers and like evil people. We're talking about tiny differentiations of like the things that matter so little that the Torah, they're like 6 times removed from the Torah. Those are the kind of people you want to make sure your kids never interact with. Like, what kind of bubble are you trying to create?
Well, again, what I mean is, for ages that are very young, we're talking, just to be very specific, I'm talking like 5-year-olds. Up until age 5, things need to be at least in my opinion, very black and white. This is what I choose for myself and my children, right? So beyond age 5, 6, you can start being way more nuanced about these things. Certainly if family members, extended family members, choose to go a different way with their lives, that's no reason to cut anybody out or ostracize anyone. There's a big difference between someone keeping to the truth of God's word versus someone, for very young children, being in my immediate social circle, where when young children are unable to differentiate, they don't have the intellectual capacity to do so. At that point, only would I consider.
I feel like your first and foremost lesson to teach your children as an Orthodox Jew is the entire world does not do what we're doing. There is a tiny minority of people on this earth that do what we're doing. Also, you just said if it was a family member, you wouldn't cut them off, right? But if it's a convert, then you would, right? So you're further fulfilling the fact that the Torah says, don't just favor your family members, favor the stranger among you.
Well, again, by cut off, what I mean to say is, I also would not find it acceptable, to have my children around family members exhibiting certain social behaviors or otherwise that my husband and I don't deem fit. It's not purely even to do with Judaism, rabbinic or otherwise.
You're missing the point, though. This is not a socially unacceptable behavior. You only think that because it's a rabbinic command. The problem is that rabbinic law doesn't let you put that above a biblical command, but you do.
Well, again, I think there's a difference between, so again, I don't support ostracization, however that word might.
Majority of Orthodox Judaism.
No, I don't support in this particular. I also don't think killing babies is acceptable. Yes, that's right. I mean, there are some things where I do deviate from Orthodox Judaism in that I think it's incorrect. Like these things, I know it's in the Mishnah, but it's quite clearly been.
Orthodox Judaism say to kill babies? What do you?
No, as in Orthodox Jews, pardon me, abortion. That abortion is okay,
Orthodox Judaism doesn't actually allow for that. That's a very modern thing.
Very unfortunately, so whatever. Like during the times of the Mishnah, there may not have been, the possibility to save a woman's life without perhaps aborting a baby if there's a medical crisis. But unfortunately, these days, the halachic rulings have not deviated from this opinion.
I'm glad we found some common ground. We all agree we should not be doing abortion. And
one of the first ethical concerns I had with Judaism was the looseness with abortion.
Oh, it's devastating. Sounds like you're from the UK.
So for everyone watching on my channel, by the way, in Israel, the number of abortions per capita, it's one of the highest in the Western world, which means every year the state of Israel, with rabbinic permission, because it's one of those things that goes to the rabbinate.
Yes, it's horrifying.
Allows for what is it?
It's over 95% as of last year. Approved abortion.
Times the number of deaths of October 7th.
And not only that, they allow third trimester abortions. Unfortunately, not that makes it any more moral, but they allow for things like short femurs and it's just whatever angle you look at this from, it's pretty horrifying. So in that
slide to turn down her volume a little bit because people are saying she's a lot louder than we are.
Yeah, let's do that right now. I'll just point out that in the UK, over 50% of babies are aborted. 85 million babies a year are aborted. That's more deaths than all the world wars, cancer, and gun deaths, gun violence. So, this world is definitely screwed up. And I would say if we're going to start fighting real evil, that's where we should look, not to excommunicating people for eating chicken and cheese.
Right. Yeah. So sorry, just one last nuance on that. What I mean by that is simply that for not the kind of ostracization that you guys were talking about happens. What I meant by that, it was just simply a catch-all term for when I have very young children in the house, I find it acceptable to make things incredibly black and white. That's all that I meant. And that does mean not associating with certain people up until my children reach the ability for me to be able to explain certain nuances of, yes, though they are Jewish, they keep different things for different reasons, and as do we. But until they're able to understand that nuance, it's not where our family is looking to go to, basically. That's all I would advocate for, is like freedom of association without any cruelty. If whatever you're doing in terms of ostracizing, be that for me as an adult without my child's knowledge, right, it's got nothing to do with my kids. I fire someone from their job for eating chicken and milk. I mean, that's quite clearly us, so there's no reason to do that. That does violate the injunction against not being cruel to the convert and the widow and the entire list of people you should not be cruel to. So of course, if you're talking that, no, unequivocally I condemn that. Yeah. No, but if you're talking about, do I have to let my 2-year-old, watch someone mixing chicken and milk if I know that's not the way we're going to live our lives, and then I suddenly need to try and explain that to him? No, I don't feel that there's a reason for that, but I also think that can be done in a way that is both compassionate to the person, where I have a personal conversation saying, hey, look, it really is nothing personal. It's just my kid is too young. And that's it. I don't think this needs to be done with any kind of malice. Like, I think it's just the person, especially given in the scenario creating, they've converted to Orthodox Judaism. So they understand where I'm coming from in terms of my whole belief system of, why I think this is worth adhering to, though I don't think this is biblical law by any stretch of the imagination, or necessary, or that they're doing anything wrong by eating chicken and milk together. But having said that again, it just needs to be black and white.
We have some people waiting.
Yeah, we gotta go.
Yeah.
All right. God bless.
God bless, guys. Maybe I'll catch you some other time.
All right. Bye-bye. We got Oliver up here, right? Oliver.
Can you hear me?
Come on up. Hey, Oliver, what's up?
Okay, thanks so much for having me. First of all, as far as I'm aware, the rabbinate has nothing to do with abortions. They don't allow, they don't deny it. It's like a medical authority that deals with it.
It's a rabbinic like council that's led by the rabbinate.
It's not the rabbinate,
as far as
though.
I understand.
Okay.
It's under the control of the rabbinate.
No.
No? Well,
I'm
I'll have
almost
to
sure.
double check that then.
I mean, that could be easily Googled. First of all, you said you can't add or subtract from the Torah, and no one's, even Orthodox people, don't add to the actual Torah. They're just bringing their own extra laws. So I'm curious how you think that violates that law.
Are you saying
we don't add to the law? We just add a bunch of extra laws.
We don't claim that it's the Torah. You're just obligated to listen to us because the Torah says you should listen to us.
No, I'm saying that if you read it literally, it could just mean that you're not allowed to add to that.
Yeah, for people asking on my channel,
for
people asking on my channel, if you send a super chat, we'll flag it now and read it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know your points. Either you're agreeing that rabbinic law is not binding. What are you saying? Yeah,
no, I'm saying that
rabbis have the right to run their mouth, but I don't have to listen to them.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying that if you read, if your premise is that Rabbinic Judaism violates the actual Torah, I would just say that if you read that pasuk or tractate like literally, it could just mean that you're not allowed to add to the actual scrolls. So meaning if you found someone with a Torah scroll with added in like sentences, that would be an example of a violation of that.
God says, do not add
don't stray
to
from
my
right
commandments, right? It says, do not add to these commandments, right? So if I'm adding commandments, then I'm adding to the commandments. It doesn't say, do not edit this scroll and add to the commandments. It says, do not add to
that's your interpretation.
It's not an interpretation. What does it say? Does it say, do not add to this scroll? Or it says, do not add to the commandments? I'm giving you a set of commandments. These are the commandments you need to follow. Do not add or subtract to them.
You would agree that like states are allowed to add laws, right? That
no,
the Torah wasn't going to say that Israel as a state can't have new laws, can't have traffic laws and things like that. Of course you would be allowed to.
You're shifting the claim. So the claim of Rabbinic Judaism is not the claim you're making right now. The claim of Rabbinic Judaism, as per the Mishnah Pirkei Avot, is that there is an unbroken chain of succession from Moses to the rabbis of the 2nd century that included an oral Torah, everything of which was given at Sinai, and all the different opinions being cited are all valid ways to interpret this, because all these are all words of the living God, but these are specific parts of the Torah, just the oral one that was given at Sinai.
Well, there's two separate things.
These are not claimed. Now, what you're talking about maybe is gezeros, like added safeguards, right? But who gave you the right to impose those safeguards is if they're Torah, which is what the Jewish world does.
Well, if people say that their laws are, if rabbis say their laws are Torah, that's
what a gezerah is. It's a binding injunction on the Jewish people.
No, 1 second. There are two separate things. There's when they say something's oral law, and when they put safeguards. When they put safeguards, we both agree that that's not That's not what they're saying. They're
No, those are completely binding, and because now even ones that were claimed to have a time limit are eternally binding because the rabbis.
No, they're not binding. They're considered Rabbanan. No one even says it's D'oraisa. But the question is,
one second. When the rabbis say something's D'Rabbanan, which means mandated by the rabbis, they're saying it's not binding. They're saying it's binding. It's binding as hell.
Wait, 1 second. It's not binding on the level of Torah laws.
What's the practical? Binding. What's the difference?
It's a law that's added.
You have to follow this.
But not on the level of Torah. Like you don't get punished.
No one gets punished for anything, dude.
I'm saying in the times of the temple.
In the times of the temple?
Yeah.
So you don't get punished for breaking rabbinic law. The Rambam says that you get lashes for extinguishing a fire on Yom Tov.
The Rambam says if you don't believe that it's given at Sinai, you're an Apikoros and you should be killed for it. So I don't know.
The Rambam took back a ton of laws at the end of his life. A lot of his books are very hard to read because they're very context specific. You know, I don't know the details.
The Rambam is the basis for Orthodox Jewish law. And the Rambam is, and he's always quoting the Talmud. Dude, the Talmud says in Brachot, like 5a, that the Mishnah and the Talmud were given at Mount Sinai.
1 second. The Rambam is not binding. The Shulchan Aruch is.
The Shulchan Aruch is quoting the Rambam verbatim.
Yeah, but the Rambam itself is not binding. If you go to most Orthodox Jews and you ask them, is the Rambam binding? Most people would say no, because there are many things he says that aren't.
Okay, everyone follows the Rambam. The Shulchan Aruch is based off of the Rambam, and all the things that we're talking about. The Shulchan Aruch says you get lashes. You get lashes for eating chicken and cheese. Is that you get lashes?
Well, that's the case of oral. Let me ask you. Okay, for your points you guys are bringing up, let me ask you what was Totafos something that the Jews, before the Torah was given, knew what that word meant?
Well, Totafot means
start wrapping up in about 5 minutes.
Okay. All right.
Would you be able to play the intro again as an outro?
Yeah, sure.
For anyone who didn't see it.
Okay. Absolutely. Totafot means an ornament.
No, Yehuda Yisrael, by the way, not every word the Pope says is binding. That's just not true. Retard.
Yeah. So is that not clear? That it's an ornament?
I'm saying it's an ornament that, but I don't know if that's what they knew what it was at that time.
So how did they know what in the beginning meant? How do they know what create is? How do they know what the earth
No,
is?
because they knew a lot of Lashon Kodesh, but Totafos was a proper noun that I wouldn't assume is colloquially used. Where else in the Torah is it used?
It doesn't matter. That is the Hebrew word that is preserved. It's a frontlet,
So I just got a super chat saying from The Word is the Way, hope to talk soon when you're talking to Christians. Always fun, entertaining, and educational. God bless you, brother. Thank you.
Okay, we're in a rush. I just want to bring up one more thing. Aish was talking to that guy, I think his name is Yehuda, about how the Rambam says we should kill apostates. And I would just say it's just interesting because Israel does not really partner with you don't partner with Rabbinic Judaism, but Ash is further away from the Torah just objectively than Rabbinic Judaism.
I mean, it's not
according to the Torah. According to the Torah, you can find.
But also,
okay, fine. I agree. It's subjective. Let's not be pedantic. Ash is sorry.
Yeah. Also, there are no Orthodox Jews who would collaborate with me.
You would be open to.
Yeah, I've done conversations with Orthodox Jews many times.
Okay,
but it's hard to find them because they don't want to talk.
There are a lot of times I'm pretty sure there are times where it says you should kill someone who serves another god, like a Jew who serves another god, right?
Yeah, obviously.
I don't serve another god.
Do you think Ash should be?
I think you serve another god.
Well, I mean, Ash said over and over again today that he serves the God Yahweh who is one. So, and that's what he's professing to worship. So I don't. Sounds like we worship the same God.
He even said before he does worship another god. He said it 15 seconds ago.
He says he does or doesn't?
Ash said 15 seconds ago that he worships another god.
No, he just said he doesn't.
Yeah, it's in the recording.
No,
I said you worship a false god. You have a false idea of God. That's what I said. I said you worship another god other than the God of the Torah. You didn't hear.
You don't know my religion. I'm just saying. So,
I don't know your religion. Okay.
Okay. Also, Israel, just one more point.
Didn't you say you were an Orthodox Jew when you came on?
No.
No, you didn't say that when you came on.
You're closeted Orthodox.
I sworn you did.
I was brought up Orthodox. I'm not right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
so why don't you follow Orthodox Judaism?
That's I don't want to discuss that right now. But Israel, what's your opinion on?
I'm sure you
women?
don't.
No, 1 second. I'm not like being defensive. I just don't want to bring up my personal stuff. There's a lot to discuss, you know.
But you don't follow Rabbinic Judaism.
I don't claim to. I'm trying to sift through these things. I'm asking you guys questions.
Oh, because it sounds like you're challenging very basic fundamentals of Judaism, but trying to defend Judaism. You're saying Christianity's false. How do you know Christianity's false if you don't believe in anything?
I never said Christianity's false.
You just said, you made affirmative statements about what I believe. You said it's idolatry. Ash follows a different God other than the God of the Bible.
No, I was saying,
don't actually have any particular...
I said according to Israel, Christianity is false.
So you don't have any views or opinions?
I'm not here to say my opinions. I'm asking you guys questions. I'm trying to sift through these ideas.
Mm-hmm. So what was the thing you were going to say?
Yeah, no, I'm just curious what your opinion is on women covering their hair at marriage.
Interesting. Yeah, so someone asked that earlier.
All right, and I'm going to jump off now.
No, that's
I'll
cool.
Listen to your response.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, the source, the only Torah source is what it says by a sota woman, a woman accused of cheating on her husband. It says that they uncover her head at the temple. Now, that does not at all mean that it's an obligation to cover your hair. It seemingly is an implication that it was practiced at that time.
I'm sorry. Ben Peretz, did you go to Israel's chat to fight with Yehuda? Oh, that's funny.
Everyone's they're all over the place.
You.
That's great. Well, yeah, so I mean that's the closest proof that there is that women back then were practicing head covering. However, it's not an obligation. There's no place in the Torah. This goes back to like, does the customs and practices of ancient Jews dictate current law? No. Practices, traditions is not law. There's no commandment that says married women need to cover their hair. Now, what we have nowadays with Orthodox women is they actually cover their hair with other women's hair, known as the sheitel, the wig, and that's just a complete joke, right? As anyone can gather, when a woman puts a wig on her hair, very often that looks better than her own wig, and then has a concealer to show that it's like as if it's her own hair. I'll just recount a story quickly before we end. I was at an amusement park on like Chol HaMoed Sukkot, which is like the days between the holy days on Sukkot, and they have like a day in the amusement park where like the Jews kind of get like cheap tickets and they all show up. And so I was there with my Orthodox cousin, who's a woman, and she had just gotten married and she was wearing her new wig. And this guy comes over to her. He's like, "Can I ask you a question? Why do all you Jewish women have such beautiful hair?" And I was like, "Okay." I mean, like that's they're supposedly wearing the head covering for additional modesty. Although then they're like, "Oh, it's just as long as it's covered, it's covered." It's like, no, if you're covering your hair, it would be for some purpose, and the purpose would be to be more modest. You don't have to, but you can. But what we have nowadays is like the women are literally just wearing wigs. So I think that's ridiculous. But anyway, that's my opinion. Ash, we got to close, correct?
Yes, I'm going to take away the link.
All right. Great to see you all.
Take away the link from yours as well, so nobody comes in after the fact.
All right, let's do it. Where are we?
We got a crazy intro that I made for Israel.
Yes,
that we're going to use as the outro too.
Guys, we're going to watch this great one.
I can give you a list of 100 Jews that destroyed the Jewish nation. One of them is Santa Claus. Santa Claus in my blacklist is the biggest danger to the Jewish world today. The biggest. The damage that he makes with his stupid books, the retard books that he just printed now. God needs us. Full of heresy.
Which means that the first human being, the original human being, was both male and female. Whatever that means. First of all, it tells us that being a male or being a female is wrong. That's not the way we're supposed to be. We are supposed to be male and female.
Important question. At what age does a person become responsible and culpable for violating the laws of the Torah? Can Can a 6-year-old child be punished for violating the Sabbath? Can a 10-year-old child be punished for eating a cheeseburger? Punished for eating a cheeseburger? Punished for